Good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling this meeting of the CPS Energy Board of Trustees to order at 1 p.m. Ms. Ramirez, do we have a quorum?
Yes, ma'am. We have Vice Chair Dr. Mackey. We have Trustee Dr. Gonzalez. We have Trustee Gonzalez and yourself. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. We will move to our safety message, invocation, and pledge of allegiance with Ms. Pixley.
Good afternoon. I'll review the evacuation procedures so that we are prepared to be safe in the event of an emergency. If you hear the fire alarm, follow the instructions announced through the PA system. If asked to evacuate, use the glass door to exit outside and verbally alert others. We'll move to the main parking lot in front of the building or the AT&T parking lot at the McCullough-Brooklyn bridges. Our security team will be watching and will notify the appropriate emergency services. Lastly, we'll also have employees nearby who are trained to administer first aid if needed. Safety is a top priority, and while we hope this information is never needed, we want to ensure we are prepared. Additionally, we ask that you remain seated during the duration of the meeting, keep the aisles clear, and do not block any exits. Will you please stand with me for an invocation? For a quiet moment, I invite you to express gratitude for our health, for our families and our friends, and for the opportunity to come together as a community today. We honor our trustees for the responsibility they bear. We wish them success today in making decisions with wisdom and humility. We are reminded that we are all stewards acting on behalf of our customers. May we accomplish our goals together with that singular purpose in mind. Now, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Pixley. All right, we will move on to public comment, and we have several people signed up to speak today.
Good afternoon. Public comment provides an opportunity for members of the public to share thoughts on posted agenda items for this meeting. We will invite pre-registered speakers to speak. They may only address the board on CPS Energy related business listed on the posted agenda. Speakers should state their first and last name, the organization or group they represent, and the agenda item they will speak about. We ask that you remain seated until you hear your name called. Additionally, if you have any items you would like to share with the Board of Trustees, please provide those to your board relations group, and we'll be happy to share them with the board post-meeting on your behalf. For this meeting, we have 19 in-person public speakers. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak. At the conclusion of the 2 minutes, the screen will flash red, and you will be asked to stop speaking immediately. Please be respectful of this time allocation. Thomas, will you please cue the timer? Okay. Our first speaker today is State Senator Jose Menendez, followed by Ms. Henrietta LaGrange. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. He's not here yet. I spoke out of turn. Ms. Henrietta LaGrange will be our first speaker today, followed by Erica Alfaro.
Good afternoon. My name is Henrietta Queta Flores LaGrange, and I am so proud to be here for you, Rudy. I belong to the Mulberry Street Girl Gang, LULAC, Raza Unida, Growing Up Brown. But in Growing Up Brown, I remember because my father retired CPS, my brother retired CPS, and I know exactly what CPS was. And I'm going to ask all the employees to put all your effort in your work because those are the ethics that Rudy still expects out of you. Hard work, and I expect it out of you. Hard work, and that is making Rudy Garza proud. Rudy, you understand this community. You understood me, that I knew I was a person that would like to speak her voice. Sometimes, you know, I'm not exactly I use two dictionaries, Merriam-Webster's English version, and then Merriam-Webster's dictionary, four-letter words. Oh, and I love the four-letter word dictionary, and I like staying there. Don't anybody ever forget it. If I don't say it, if I put my hand up and it's a four-letter word, remember it's gonna come out, but I'm not gonna say it, okay? And that's but I'm proud of all the CPS workers, because you all have showed me how much you appreciate Rudy Garza. I've talked to a lot of people, Rudy, and a lot of them were crying because they think that the ethics of CPS are gonna go down. And I might say, or maybe do a little gesture, because if the new interim CEO needs some, I got lots of them, okay? But Janie, I love you. Francine, I love you. I love you, board. But let's make it better for the worker, and don't make it too hard for anybody. Ms. Ramirez, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LaGrange.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Daniel Bertelli, followed by Brett Finley.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Bertetti. I'm with Climate Justice San Antonio. I'm a lifelong resident of Quadrant 2, and I'm speaking on the generational plan. I was one of the annoying people that was here 2 months ago. I remember then Rudy Garza denying there was any discussion of a rate increase just yet, but it seems like maybe we're insinuating that maybe there's one in this generational plan on the slides. I imagine data centers are not entirely blameless in the doubled projected commercial energy demand. I also saw that one of the prioritized energy sources through 2050 will be nuclear. Because of that, I asked that CPS prioritizes safety, because there is a matter of where do we mine uranium and where do we dump it. The Navajo Nation in Arizona in 1979 was rocked by the Church Rock uranium mill spill that permanently damaged their water and land, and the country is still cleaning it up, and natives are still dealing with the effects of radiation. I have a lot of other asks for CPS Energy, City Council, and affiliates when they consider the logistics and appeal of this proposed rate hike. Zoran Mamdani in New York showed us that you can fix the deficit without making taxpayers foot the bill. I urge those involved to not take any bribes from corporations that might influence their decisions. I urge those involved to not sign any NDAs like other local officials in other cities have that leave their constituents in the dust. I urge those involved to not have any one-on-one conversations with corporate lobbyists that might present misinfo about nuclear energy or conflate things like hyperscale data centers with enterprise data centers. I urge those involved to not purchase land next to data centers so that they can have a private influence over the say of it, like Speaker Mike Schultz in Utah buying 25,000 acres next to the Stratos data center site. Because transparency is not just a buzzword. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Bertetti.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Brett Finley, followed by Erica Alfaro.
Good afternoon, Board of Trustees. My name is Brett Finley. I have the privilege of serving as the President and CEO of the Metro San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of our more than 1,000 member businesses, we thank you for the opportunity to speak today regarding agenda item number 10, the Generation Plan Refresh. I'm here today to express the Chamber's full support for this item and the direction outlined in the proposed plan. I want to thank CPS Energy for being a strong partner to the business community and for keeping stakeholders informed throughout this process. We've appreciated the updates regarding the need to refresh the generation portfolio and prepare for our region's future. Reliable and affordable energy is essential to San Antonio's continued growth and economic competitiveness. Our members depend on a utility that can provide both certainty and value, and we appreciate that these priorities remain central to this plan. Like CPS Energy, we see growth every day. New businesses are investing in our community, existing employers are expanding, and more families are choosing to call our region home. We appreciate that this strategy addresses those growing demands while remaining mindful of customer costs. We are encouraged by the flexibility of the blended approach. The plan adds dispatchable generation, renewable resources, and battery storage to meet future demand. It also creates a pathway away from coal while allowing CPS Energy to evaluate emerging technologies and future generation outcomes. Just as importantly, this framework allows specific projects to come before the board as needs arise, providing flexibility and, in a rapidly changing environment, the flexibility that is required. We believe this approach balances reliability, affordability, and future growth, and we support the adoption of the generation plan extension. Before I close, I would like to recognize Rudy Garza and thank him for his partnership with the Chamber and the broader business community. Rudy stepped into leadership during one of the most challenging periods post-Winter Storm Uri, and over the last 4 years, he has helped restore confidence through transparency, engagement, and a willingness to have difficult conversations. Rebuilding public trust is no small feat, and his leadership has helped position CPS Energy for the future. Rudy, we wish you and your family nothing but the best in the future. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Finley.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Adrian Shelley, followed by Dan Yoxel.
Good afternoon. My name is Adrian Shelley. I'm the Texas Director of Public Citizen. I'm speaking on item 8. This is the Omicron Routing and Siting Project, and I appreciate the opportunity to address you all this afternoon. I speak on behalf of Public Citizen's 30,000 members and supporters across the state. Our mission is to be the voice of the people in the halls of power. The Omicron Reliability Project was recommended by ERCOT in July of 2024. It comes with a price tag of $46.2 million. Things have changed greatly in the area where the project was proposed in just that short time. Most significantly, just 2 months later in September, was announced the Vantage TX11 data center project with a co-located power plant. That's the VoltaGrid power plant, 265 megawatts of power coming from 80 gas generators. There is, all told, about 26 gigawatts of large load potentially in the queue in CPS. I don't think all of that will get built, but there is a considerable task ahead in determining which of those projects actually will be built. I want to remind you all of the letter that Governor Abbott sent on June 10th to PUC Chairman Gleason and ERCOT CEO Pablo Vegas. He directed the PUC to take action to, and I'm quoting here, ensure that data centers interconnections will result in reduced residential electrical bills. So not just increased or stayed the same, but reduced residential electrical bills. That is an excellent goal, and I hope that it's a goal that we are able to meet in the context of the generation plan and the rate case that is coming later this year. We have encouraged transparency in the demand across the different customer classes. We know that only a small portion of our increased demand is coming from residences, and we do not believe that the residential customer class should be subsidizing all of that additional investment that is needed to serve these large loads. So please think about that in the context of this project and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shelley.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Dan Yoxel, followed by Jeremy Linville.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Yoxel, President and CEO of the San Antonio Manufacturers Association. Thank you for the opportunity to address the CPS Energy Board of Trustees this afternoon. For 112 years, since 1914, SAMA has served as the voice and advocate for the 70,000 manufacturing employees in our region, including Bexar County and the surrounding 7 counties. A significant percentage of our manufacturers are CPS customers and directly engaged with the services and energy infrastructure that CPS provides. From advanced manufacturing to more than 60% of our members that are small to medium manufacturers, there are approximately 1,500 companies in our region. My message to you today from our members and the SAMA Board of Directors is to thank you for your partnership first and foremost. As an essential industry, manufacturers recognize your 3,600 employees for their tireless work 24/7 during significant events such as Winter Storm Uri and significant rain, cold, and heat events that we see here every year. Across your departments, your team members have presented to SAMA on conservation, supply chain, rate considerations, grid reliability, service opportunities, including our annual trade show and conference each May. CPS executives, most recently, Jose Trevino and Maria Garcia Stanton, have served on SAMA's board of directors, providing leadership and timely direction. This includes, most recently, ongoing updates regarding the need to refresh the generation plan, which I believe is agenda item number 10 today. We see expansion in manufacturing every day in our region, and we appreciate that you are planning how to manage that with attention to the cost to customers. We support the focus on reliable, affordable generation, capacity improvement, storage through a blended strategy because it is important to manufacturing's success. A note of appreciation to Rudy Garza from our SAMA members for the vision and expertise that you have provided. Buena suerte in your new role. Thank you for everything, Rudy. We look forward to the continued partnership with CPS Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Yoxall.
Our next speaker is Jeremy Linville, followed by Jonathan De La Hoyos.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeremy. I am a resident within San Antonio, lived in the area most of my life, and I'm here to talk about the generation plan. And one thing that I'm able to appreciate is the amount of effort that has been put into this plan. But I do feel like there has been like a bit of a lack of like transparency, at least with like some other like working class members, in terms of how much this cost increase is going to affect citizens. And I think, especially thinking about this plan is supposed to be for reliable and affordable energy, but the question is going to be for who? Because we have a lot of low-income people who aren't able to basically come through with these rate hikes. And so at the same time, we're seeing a lot of investment into data centers and a lot of investment to more corporate partners. And at the same time, these corporations are the same ones that are going to be using a lot of resources. So one thing I'd want to see as a member of the public is some transparency in terms of how much cost, like how much is this going to cost CPS in the future, and how much is this going to cost the public in terms of like everybody who is paying for the energy. And I feel like an independent, like third-party company should be doing an audit, because I heard previously that a corporate partner, they had a lot of insight as a stakeholder in a lot of internal meetings with CPS, but I feel like that same gratitude should be shown to the public, and there should be more transparency with like what our money is going to, and if it's going to cause rate hikes, we should be informed of that, and if that is going to be really necessary. But yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Linville.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Jonathan De Hoyos, and followed by Didi Balmeres.
How you guys doing? First name Jonathan, last name De Hoyos. I'm gonna talk about Agenda 10. As for who I'm gonna represent, I'm just gonna represent your regular citizen from San Antonio, your passerby, a person who's ignorant to politics, ignorant to even the generation plan, a person who works for a living, like the majority of people are outside of this building. So the average worker will think about 20 years ago. Now, during this time of the year, you gotta have your AC on for about, I don't know, at most 7 hours, but at nighttime while you're asleep. Then the rest of the day, you have to turn it off. Save some money for salt, save some money for food, save some money for, the mouths you gotta feed. Fast forward right now, it's not getting easier. And on top of that, you're gonna add a hike. All the guys say is, just to make this simple, you're gonna make a lot of people a lot more political if you're gonna add this hike. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Didi Balmeres, followed by Jessica Solis.
Good afternoon. Didi Balmeres with Public Citizen. I'm speaking on agenda item number 10. I'd like to point out a couple of things regarding the updated generation plan y'all will be voting on to meet growing demand. Specifically, the growing demand of the commercial class, large load customers, because residential demand is only expected to increase by 34% between 2026 and 2040. Population growth in Bexar County is expected to increase by 4.9% by 2030. However, commercial demand is expected to increase 104% between 2026 and 2040. Who's going to pay for that growth when y'all ask for rate support eventually for this refreshed generation plan? My second point is, how did Charles River Associates figure in closing the gap that it would include 10% demand side solutions when there is only 1 year left on the STEP program? Is CPS Energy working on a third iteration of the STEP? The answer should be yes, because demand-side strategies like STEP reduce or shift power usage, especially during peak demand. Saving the megawatt is as important, if not greater, than the one we generate. The STEP program, with its energy efficiency offerings and demand response, help manage grid reliability, reduce emissions, and lower costs for customers. And lowering energy costs for customers right now is so important, as this presentation points out that bills in April of this year are higher than they were in April of 2025 due to an increase in fuel on a year-over-year basis. That's almost an increase of $12. That might not seem like a lot to this board, but for working families that adds up, and any rate support that is placed on residential customers will only further burden them. So it's imperative that CPS Energy is allocating costs to those that are putting the costs on the system. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Balmeres.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Jessica Solis, followed by David Gates.
Hello, Board. My name is Jessica Solis, and I'm here to address Agenda Item 10. I was a little disappointed that I didn't get to sit in the room with y'all. You know, I have to sit outside the room. Sorry, that's the hotline that we have for people going through issues. And yeah, I was disappointed I had to stand outside. I wish I could have come here, address you. Instead, the rest of us have to be outside. When I've taken time out of my day, taken time off work, a lot of our people, to come talk to you about these rate hikes that are going to affect us greatly. We're currently living through an affordability crisis. Gas prices are up 50%. Groceries have been up over 30% and continuing to climb since the pandemic. And our utilities and water are also going up. People are no longer able to afford to keep their lights on. And when they are able to get on payment plans, they have to pay to reconnect. How is that fair to the people that are making this company run, because we are a municipally owned company in this building. And yeah, I'm very disappointed to not be able to have found any transparency around what the plans are. I hear about this $1.3 billion contract with all these mega corporations. I hear that our rate hikes are going to go up. How much of that is going to support private infrastructure that we're not going to really be able to benefit from, right? Data centers are the lowest labor-intensive industry right now. So it's not really going to be affecting us. It's just going to be providing more pollution. It's not going to provide that many jobs. And to hear that our municipally owned electricity company is going to take money from our pockets to pay for this is insulting. So yeah, we took time out of our day. We really wanted to sit here in front of you. I really appreciate all the work you've done for these development plans. I would really appreciate it more if we also talked about the affordability crisis. The fact that the affordability programs you have are on pause here in Bexar County because the demand was exponential. When are those going to go up? When are those going to open up again? When are we going to have money allocated to people's needs again? Because this is what this municipal company is supposed to be for, the people.
Thank you, Ms. Solis.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is David Gates, followed by Isa Herrera. We're going to move on. Isa Herrera, is she here to join us today?
Hello, my name is Isa, and I'm speaking for the thousands of San Antonians who are struggling to afford their bills. It is a shame to place many individuals in a place to decide paying their light or water when both utilities are asking for a rate hike during the same year within the same month. And people are struggling. People are having the decision to pay rent or groceries, and that's not the way to live. The invocation before the meeting started with to act with wisdom. And with that, I think it would be wise to deny the generation plan and reevaluate its environmental and financial impacts. To update this agreement and ask San Antonio to rely on more natural gas will lock us into failing the climate goal emissions by 2040. And this is a shame, knowing CPS continues to plan projects that place high cost burdens and polluted air on the people. You have several proposed plans that will cost money to cover the infrastructure upgrades that we need. We have a high energy demand, and we also need to update our systems. Your recent decision to upgrade software and share our data to other companies with no clear oversight, and now with this generation plan, shows your consistency on failing to be transparent and accountable. Texans make up 9% of the country's electric customers, but 22% of all that are disconnections. Board of Trustees, you must lower the energy costs and deny the rate hike. The community continuously asks for transparency, and we demand accountability from big commercial consumers to pay their fair share. The current energy plan is growing to be unsustainable financially and environmentally, and there must be an independent cost of service study. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Herrera.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Jeff Webster, followed by Isa Lee.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Webster. I'm the president and CEO of the Greater San Antonio Chamber. I also had the benefit many years ago of serving on city council. I've been able to watch this organization for the last 30-plus years and the commitment to our community. The questions that come before you every week are difficult. We all like free power. We like free water. We don't want to pay for groceries. It doesn't work that way. You guys have had to make some tough decisions. But what I admire about this board is it's a balance. You guys have been able to balance the needs at times. What I want to say to that is, I've listened to these vast few speakers, and I absolutely understand what they say. But the greatest opportunity to get people off free programs or get them out of economic disparity is to create economic opportunity, create jobs with good paying wages that create opportunity to lift this entire community. So a balanced energy program that you've put forward is greatly appreciated. I also would be lacking if I didn't take a few minutes to say congratulations to my friend Rudy Garza. We spent many years working together, and as Rudy will attest, we didn't always agree. But what I love about Rudy, he always took the call, he always called me back, and we could have an honest discussion. And with many of you on this board, we've done the same thing. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing. Where the value is coming together to move forward. This board has been particularly good about coming together to move forward. These plans are difficult to come up with. Rudy, I know we've struggled with these over the years, but a balanced approach delivers the best need for this city. Delivering economic opportunity and jobs, Rudy, will be the trail that you leave behind you, and this community needs to thank you for helping lead this city to developing economic opportunity and jobs for future generations, partnering with our local community college district, partnering with our workforce development, and creating economic hope. Madam Chairman, thank you very much for your leadership. Rudy, wish you the very best in your next steps. God bless. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Webster.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Aisa Lee, followed by Jose Perez.
Good afternoon. My name is Aisa Le, and I'm here to speak on regular agenda 10, Energizing Process Together Generation Plan Refresh. On the face, Texas is one of the fastest growing economies in the country, seeing unprecedented development of data centers across the state. But what does that mean for regular working people? At a community energy forum held by CPS on June 11th, outgoing CPS Energy President CEO Rudy Garza spoke on the importance of hearing directly from the public and the future of energy and what it means for our community as we see continued growth in the region. He said, quote, "We want people to give it to us straight because the best decisions we make are informed by the community we serve." If we are to take this at face value, you can appreciate why everyday working class San Antonians are fighting back against the rate hike and demanding you uphold your stated core values: safety and well-being, transparency, one team, accountability, integrity, and excellence. Texas already leads the nation in utility disconnections. And like my colleague said, with Texans making up 22.5% of all disconnections, despite being only 9% of the country's electric customers. 180,000 CPS Energy customers in Greater San Antonio are already struggling to pay their bills. As the third poorest major metro in the U.S. amid a growing cost of living crisis and extreme weather events, working families should not be expected to foot the bill for larger loads on the grid created by the city's 20 existing data centers, not to mention the 50 to 90 planned developments. According to ERCOT, data centers and other large industrial customers use at least 75 megawatts of electricity. So I guess for reference, that's 1 megawatt of electricity is enough to serve about 250 residential customers during ERCOT peak hours. So one data center uses at least 75 megawatts of electricity, would be using the equivalent of that used to power a whopping 18,750 homes. We urge the Board of Trustees to delay and reevaluate the generation plan and oppose the rate hike on our working communities. To not do so would be parasitic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Lee.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Jose Perez, followed by Myra Dempis.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jose Perez, and I'm speaking on item 10, talking about the future of our energy resources. I don't mean to be condescending, but we are in a climate crisis. It isn't a hoax. It is an ongoing phenomena that affects people's lives, kids, and the elderly. Greenhouse gases from fossil fuel usage accumulates in the sky and absorbs solar radiation. these greenhouse gases make the planet overheat. Phenomena like heat island thermodynamics occur over paved impermeable surfaces and over highly urbanized environments. Temperatures measured over black asphalt surfaces are typically 20 degrees above ambient temperatures. These heat islands and blistering summers are real and make it harder for regular people to live, build their lives, and survive. It makes it harder to cool down your house, and it makes it more expensive to live in general. This year, we haven't yet had a single 100+ degree day, but they have been happening at an alarming rate in the past few decades. These are real numbers that we must prepare for. I know San Antonio CPS cannot fix the weather, but I do believe it has the legal authority to protect those who have less from the consequences of the intentions of those who have more. I'm talking about data centers and high power users. When you go to the website, Energizing the Progress Together, I noticed that it breaks down the different sources of energy for CPS. It has solar, natural gas, wind, nuclear, and storage, which I don't really understand. But the production of solar is 734 megawatts, while the production from natural gas is 3,921. So I recommend that we double down on our renewable resources. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Pettis.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Mayra Dempes, followed by Omar Garcia.
Thank you, Board of Trustees, for having us and allowing us to speak. My name is Mayra Demapias with AAPIs for Justice. I'm here to request to put a pause on the generational plan until a third-party cost of service study can be completed, as well as more transparency and accountability from CPS Energy. I urge you to reconsider and measure the promises of economic growth and progress I urge you to reconsider and measure the promises of economic growth and progress, the generational plan promises, to the actual ethics of the impact on vulnerable populations like seniors and families with young children. Rate hikes on a very basic resource like water should be kept affordable for fixed incomes and limited income families. If not, they can have a detrimental impact on the life and health of seniors and young children. Prioritizing the needs of data centers is not asking the community to make space for data centers. There's no balanced outcome of that. There's plenty of research now available about the detrimental impacts of data centers in the community. Let's learn from Corpus Christi. Data centers didn't improve the economy in Corpus Christi, it shut it down. Don't let San Antonio make the same mistake. It's a mistake to think the generational plan is about balance or handouts, or being opposed to handouts. Please approach the decisions with accurate, educated, and scientific research, with peer reviews vetted by an institutional review board that is not influenced by profit or corporate ties. You are the only choice for power in our city. Please use your authority and power to make the right decisions, and don't fall for the false narratives about the benefits of data centers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Demapas.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Omar Garcia.
Hi, Board. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm coming from the southwest side of San Antonio, the Palo Alto neighborhood. And the reason I'm here today is because I'm being told that you guys are considering a rate hike. And from my understanding, a lot of the increase in energy needs is going to come from data centers, which I think a lot of the commenters have pointed out are not really going to create a lot of jobs. They're going to create a lot of jobs temporarily while they're getting built, but then on site, they're going to be very few. And I want to remind you of your responsibility as a municipally owned organization to not just the ratepayers, but also to the citizens of this community. One thing that stood out to me today as I heard people speak was that the very first person that came up and commented was actually representing the Chamber of Commerce. And when the Chamber of Commerce fully supports an initiative, it tells me as somebody who's worked a sales job that we're leaving meat on the table, right? And I need you guys to go in there and reevaluate what it is that the Chamber of Commerce really likes about your proposal, because that's where the gains for the people of this community can be found. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Senator Jose Menendez.
Good afternoon. I was unaware of the fact that you were having this important issue before you, but it was good to be here to hear the testimony. It reminds me a lot of when we have the committee hearings in Business and Commerce in Austin. And one of the things that I would love to tell, and maybe I'll meet with the speakers who've been coming up before you, is that they're right when it comes to the fact that we need to keep costs down. They're right when we need to be conscious and conscientious of citizens on a fixed income, our seniors and our young families that are struggling. But they also, I hope they understand how well run CPS Energy is. It's the best run municipally owned utility in the nation. It's the largest, and because of it, we have some of the lowest rates in the nation. That doesn't mean that we need to not keep our eye on the ball and keep costs down and make things affordable, and maybe consider rates that would encourage conservation of energy at the residential level. I've been talking for a long time about the fact that we need to incentivize our residents with a way that rewards them for saving energy. But that was not my reason for being here today. My reason for being here was because I brought a resolution from the Senate of Texas to recognize a leader that I've known for many, many years. I've seen grow. And one of the things that also made my heart warm was to see all of the frontline blue shirts out there here in support of his work. It's rare that you see people on the front lines recognizing a CEO of a corporation, of an organization. It says a lot about you, Rudy. It says a lot about your leadership style. And I know there were a lot of questions when you were hired, and I think you've not only answered them, you've exceeded them. So I'm not going to take up any more time. I'm going to read this resolution. I'm going to go meet with the young people behind me, and I'm going to thank them for their civic participation. Rudy, this is for you. The state of Texas. Resolution, whereas Rudy D. Garza is retiring as President and Chief Executive Officer of CPS Energy in 2026 following 14 years with the City of San Antonio's electric and natural gas utility. Hard to believe, 14 years have passed. Whereas appointed President and CEO in 2022, Mr. Garza oversaw, that must be a typo then, 4 years. Mr. Garza oversaw implementation of Vision 2027, a 5-year strategic plan that greatly expanded generation capacity through a series of natural gas plant acquisitions. He developed a highly effective executive team that has guided a number of innovative efforts, including grid modernization, customer experience enhancements, and community resiliency. Moreover, he's worked to build a strong foundation for the future through such key initiatives as Vision 2030 and Horizon 2050. And whereas Mr. Garza has more than 3 decades of experience in the utility industry after joining CPS Energy in 2012, he excelled in a series of operational and customer service leadership roles. Previously, he served as Assistant City Manager of Business Support Services and Director of Intergovernmental Relations for the City of Corpus Christi, back when they had water. That's not in the thing. But he is a member of the national boards of the Large Public Power Council, the Keystone Policy Center, the American Gas Association, and moreover, he serves as the advisory board of the on the advisory board of the University of Texas at Austin Cockrell School of Engineering, and will soon join the board of the Electric Power Research Institute. He begins his duties as the general manager of the Lower Colorado River Authority in July of 2026. And whereas through his leadership, dedication, and commitment to excellence, Rudy Garza has significantly advanced the vital mission of CPS Energy, and he may indeed reflect with pride on his many accomplishments. Now therefore be it resolved that Rudy D. Garza be honored for his service as President and CEO of CPS Energy, and that he be extended sincere best wishes for continued success. Signed by Jose Menendez, State Senator for District 26. Rudy, congratulations, and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Senator Menendez.
Our next speaker is Senator Cesar Blanco, followed by Connie Gonzalez. Okay. Our next speaker is Connie Gonzalez.
Good afternoon, trustees and members of the CPS Energy team. I'm Connie Gonzalez. I have the privilege of serving as the Chief Strategy Officer of Brooks. And on behalf of the Brooks Board of Directors, our leadership team, and the entire Brooks familia, I am honored to recognize and thank Rudy Garza for his extraordinary service. Rudy joined the Brooks Board of Directors December 10th, 2020, following his appointment by Councilman John Courage, and was later reappointed by Councilwoman Misty Spears. Since January 1st, 2024, he has served as our glorious Vice Chairman. Titles and dates only tell a part of the story. When Rudy was named President and CEO of CPS Energy, his schedule, we know, became nearly impossible. He had every reason to step away from the board, but instead he chose to stay. He remained engaged, present, passionate, and committed to helping guide the future of Brooks and the south side of San Antonio. He didn't just attend meetings, he showed up, he asked thoughtful questions, he championed our vision, and he consistently reminded us that communities are built through partnership, service, and a belief in people. While he's proudly from Corpus Christi, we still consider him an honorary Southsider. And so, Rudy, your leadership at CPS Energy and your service on the Brooks Board of Directors helped strengthen our organization, helped advance opportunities for countless residents, businesses, and families across our community, which has since achieved more than $2 billion in investment, and even more so, achieved resulting a 36% increase in household incomes across the Brooks region. You are a true public servant, a trusted leader, and most of all, a Brooks believer. From all of us at Brooks, gracias. Thank you for your friendship, your leadership, your unwavering dedication to Brooks and to the greater San Antonio community. We are truly forever grateful, and moving forward, we look forward to continuing to work with you all, trustees, Frank, and the greater CPS Energy team as we continue focusing on economic development for Team San Antonio. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez.
This concludes our public comment. Thank you.
All right, well, here we are. Good afternoon, everybody. Today, of course, I think everybody up here wants to take a moment to recognize the leadership and contributions of outgoing President and CEO Rudy D. Garza. Today is his last board meeting with us, and the agenda is reflective of some of the lasting impacts he has had on CPS Energy, from the transmission work update to the generation plan and the summer preparedness. Rudy's leadership has led this team to position CPS Energy as a forward-thinking and innovative utility on which I'm proud to serve. Rudy, I'm thankful for the time I've been able to spend with you here. I started as a trustee right about when you started as the CEO, and I feel like we've been through a lot together. We learned a lot together. I learned so much from you. I think just in one trip up to Austin, I asked you so many questions, and I learned so much about how electricity works. you know, Jeff Webster said you always take the call, and it's true. You will always take a call, even if we have a million questions or we're not happy about something, we're passing on complaints. I remember my first time here, well, not my first time here, but my first time meeting you. I think I had already been approved by the board, but not by council, and I came into a meeting in this room, and there were so many people, I don't know who they were, and you came up and walked me in, and that just really meant a whole lot to me. You do really have the values of a public servant that I try to impart to my students, and thank you for coming and speaking to my students. And most of all, I just really appreciate how you treat everybody here, including us, like family. And I've learned a lot from you in this process. Thank you. We also have a resolution, but first I'm going to open it up to the other trustees for any comments they want to make. I will start with our vice chair.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. I want to go back a little bit and think about some of the things that Senator Mendez talked about. Well, Rudy understands some of it, but like I told him last weekend, he doesn't understand all of it. I enjoyed the time that Mr. Garza invited me out to go and walk the lines with the linemen and talk about the electric and all that kind of stuff. And I really got to know Mr. Garza then and spent some time with him, the lineman visit. Then came the winter storm, and it was tough because the winter storm was my first board meeting as chair with 100 and something speakers. And I was nervous with all the people. And I don't get nervous easy, but I was nervous. And I remember going to the former CEO and visiting with her, and she talked about retiring. And I said, I don't know what we're going to do when you retire, because she was going to retire. Well, she has several things that we had to accomplish. Number one was hire an attorney. She said, what do you want to do with an attorney? She said, you're the chairman, and you have to lead on that right there. We went through some discussions, and then we got Ms. Ramirez with her, and that was with Paula Williams. Then it came up where, before I retired, I want to discuss one individual with you. I say, please don't do that now, because I'm not ready for it. Then before then, we had talked to a group out of Chicago about leadership styles, who they want to be the next succession plan and chairmans. Well, that didn't go well. Didn't go well at all. It was horrible, the things that were said in those meetings. And I just listened, didn't say much. Then Paula said, you really need to look at Rudy Garza, and you got to make a recommendation to the board. I said, okay. I said, you know I like Rudy and all of this stuff. Mr. Garza, he's really good at all these things. But there's a lot of noise out there of wanting to go outside. But no one came to me. So I said, wait a minute. I've been chairman for a few months. Not one person has come to me and recommended anybody but the former CEO. I said, okay. I went back and visited with Mr. Garza. We had some private meetings, talked with him. Then my next chore was to go to another individual, former CEO, and his question was, is Mr. Garza the person you want? I said, yes. So we held a large business meeting, or a small business meeting at a local business on, I'm not gonna say where, y'all know where it's at. And a lot of presidents of the banks, CEOs, lawyers, everybody showed up. And they said, I heard you want Mr. Garza. I said, yeah. Said, we don't support Mr. Garza. I said, okay. I said, that's y'all's opinion. I say, but now it's my recommendation, and that's who I'm going to recommend. So one of the major attorneys stepped up and says, I've been knowing Dr. Mackey for 15 years, and he's finna fight y'all on this because he just told us who he wants, Mr. Garza. We left the meeting with only 2 supporters. And the main business guy, chamber guy, said, let's meet and have breakfast with Mr. Garza. Mr. Garza selected the place, downtown Mexican restaurant. We met that morning at 7 o'clock. He asked Mr. Garza a lot of questions. Mr. Garza was on point. Everything. I was so proud because he didn't let me down. So we got through with the meeting. I paid for the breakfast. And the guy said, you know, we don't have support. I said, well, let me ask you this. Do we have your support? Rudy had left. Mr. Garza had left. I said, do we have your support? He said, yes, you got my support. He said, but how are we going to get the chambers, Hispanic chambers, the greater chambers, metro chambers, the business community, the commissioners, and all this on board? I said, I got it. I'll take care of it. He said, how are you going to do that? I said, we're going to invite every one of those people to my house, and I'll pay for everything because they're not going to tell me what to do in my house. And we invited 45 people there. When they came there, when they arrived, they were not supportive. And Ms. Gonzalez was there. She knows it. However, with her support and knowing that we wanted Mr. Garza, and Mr. Garza showed up, he showed out, answered every question. Everybody's first 30 minutes, it was just iffy. After that, a little loose, little food, little drinks, loosen up, everything was okay. We got it done. Then we left there with Mr. Garza, and I said, Mr. Garza, we have to do a couple of things. We need a vision statement. We need something, some direction that we're gonna go. I didn't do it. Mr. Garza and his team put that together. He sent it to me. I sent it to the business community. They stamped it. Dr. Mackey is great. Mr. Garza is our man. Y'all did a great job. Vision 2027. That meeting had council members, commissioners, former state reps, chambers leaders, mayors, community leaders. Can you imagine putting 45 people in my house to make that happen? I paid for catering, so no one could say anything about that. Then I asked Mr. Garza about the CFO. Mr. Garza said, my man, I know who I want. I said, that's your choice, Corey Kaczynski. Then Mr. Garza and he said, well, Dr. Mackey, what can I do to show you? I said, 2 places we're gonna go. Where did we go? New Orleans and Georgia. We flew 1-day trips, talked with the CEOs of both of the companies. When they finished, I made returning phone calls and said, what do you think about our leadership style? He's the man. That's the man y'all want. And I said, okay. Look what we have, 4 years. We had someone with all the things that transpired during that time, and look where we're at now, and all the people standing up and seeing the accomplishments that we've made with Vision 2027, the transmission lines, the generation plants that we bought in Corpus and Laredo and Houston. Mr. Garza and I went down there and walked through all 4 generation plants down there. And we've accomplished so much under Mr. Garza's leadership. I am proud to call him our CEO, now our former CEO. Proud to say he's our friend. He's helped us through 4 years of leadership that we needed at the time. He's exceeded my expectation of his leadership, and I'm very proud of that. And I'm very proud that Frank Amaraz is our next interim CEO, and it's his job to take the next step and move us to the next level under his charge. And I look forward to his leadership and his guidance for CEO of CPS Energy. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Mackey. Trustee Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes, thank you. Rudy, I know I'm the one who has been the shortest time on the board, but I've been able to have the honor to follow your career, the success, and the transformation that you've done here at CPS throughout the years. I want to thank you for your leadership, your vision, but most of all, the courage to carry out that vision, because that is not an easy feat. Part of the honor of being able to sit in this chair for me was to be able to work alongside you, learn from you. You are a true example of servant leadership. This is going to be a huge loss for CPS, but the good thing is that you've left a legacy that is stronger and more resilient than when you walked in. And your team, I can't say this enough, is amazing. You guys are amazing. And that says a lot about your leadership. So I want to thank you for your leadership, your friendship. Want to wish you luck on your next adventure, and may God continue to bless you and your family.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Trustee Gonzalez.
Hello? Okay. So today is bittersweet. When I think about your time as CEO, I think about a leader who guided CPS through some of the most consequential moments in our history. Together, we worked through challenges, opportunities, and decisions that will shape this utility for decades to come. One of the things that always makes me smile is how you call me Heffa, not Hefner, Heffa. And I would answer, yes, boss. It was a simple exchange, but it reflected something deeper: trust, respect, and a shared commitment to serving our community. Dr. Mackey just described the process of the business community, but what Rudy and I represented was gente. Both of us carried the distinction of first. He became the first Hispanic president and CEO of CPS. It only took 80 years. I became the first Latina elected to represent my district on this board, and together we're the first Hispanics. Yet what I'll always appreciate about a relationship was neither of us focused on being the first. For us, being the first was never the destination. It was the responsibility. We understood that the true measure of leadership is not breaking barriers. It is what you do once the barrier is broken. It is about opening doors for others, creating opportunities, and making decisions that improve the lives of the people that we serve. Today, we heard a total of 19 people we serve, and their concerns echo many other people, and I want to thank them. Over the years, again, as mentioned, we accomplished a great deal together. We advanced strategic business plans that positioned CPS Energy for the future. We supported transformational investments in technology and modernization. You trusted me. As a technology leader and business owner myself, with some of the most significant technology discussion and investments in the utility, this utility has undertaken. That trust meant a great deal, because even today, women in technology are often underestimated, overlooked, or not expected to lead initiatives of this scale. Together, we helped move this organization forward through innovation. We supported the development of CPS AI governance and framework discussion, ensuring that emerging technologies would approach responsibly and strategically. We embraced the idea that a public utility could be both innovative and mission-driven. We also shared a passion for people. Some of my favorite memories will always be the work we did to support Girls Giving. It grew tremendously, and other community initiatives that reflected the heart of this organization. The moments remind us that CPS Energy's impact extends far beyond power plants, substations, and infrastructure. It extends into the neighborhoods, the schools, the family, and future generations. What connected us most was not our titles, not our milestones. It was our belief that this utility exists to serve the people of San Antonio. Whether we were discussing long-term strategy, technology, modernization, reliability, workforce development, community investment, or affordability, the conversation always came back to the same question: what is best for our community? This shared commitment is why this chapter has been so meaningful to me, to the community, to an individual that was here earlier, who's always telling us how proud and proud she is, who makes sure she thanks every employee, and that's her, Henrietta LaGrange. Boss, thank you for your leadership, your partnership, your friendship, your trust. Thank you for believing in innovation, for supporting new ideas, and for creating spaces for others to lead. I also want to take a moment to thank Emily, who's been a supportive partner, wife, mother. It's not difficult. It's very difficult for our spouses sometimes to stand next to us. There's a lot of push and pull. Often our spouses take the back seat, and I will always be grateful to Emily and your children for their undying support of your leadership. Billy James was very sad to say that to know that you're leaving. She said, "Please, he's not leaving." I said, "Yes, he is, Billy James, but we'll see him." So, Billy James sends her love. My dad, a retired CPS mechanic, who witnessed the first Hispanic CEO, is important to him. He said, "Mr. Rudy, thank you." So again, thank you for the many ways you have, again, made this organization and its leadership stronger, and again, for the community that we both love. So gracias.
Thank you, Trustee Gonzalez. Mayor?
Great. Well, Rudy, I don't want to reiterate some of the comments that have been made, but let me point to two things that really stick out in the short time that we've known each other, and that which I've appreciated, which is the trust that you were able to quickly engender as a result of your leadership after the storm. That was a real low point, I think, for this utility, but your ability to come in there, speak to your vision, which each step of the way required, as that picture highlights, making sure those doing the work on the front lines understood that you had their best interests at heart, and then certainly that reflected in the policies and the investments that are made in this community to ensure that this is a well-run utility. So my thanks to you there. My thanks also for you and Emily's recent leadership with United Way. Over $80 million raised for the most needy in our community speaks to, again, I think your understanding of the other responsibility you have as a leader, which is making sure that we're in all ways trying to address the needs of our most vulnerable. So I thank you for those two things. Appreciate your vision, your leadership, and it is certainly a big gap that Frank will have to fill, but certainly has our confidence that he'll do that well. Best of luck.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to read our resolution now. So be patient. This is a resolution of appreciation in honor of President and CEO Rudy D. Garza. Whereas on September 6, 2022, by action of this Board of Trustees, Rudy D. Garza assumed the position of President and CEO of CPS Energy, the largest municipally owned utility in the nation, providing both electric and gas service. And whereas at the time he assumed this role, the world was still facing the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic, and Texas was recovering from the widespread impacts of Winter Storm Uri, both of which had significant effects on CPS Energy and the members of this community. And whereas in his tenure as President and CEO, Rudy Garza provided the vision and effective leadership required for CPS Energy to meet these challenges and pave a path to the future, while continuing to serve our community with a reliable, affordable, and cleaner energy. And whereas Rudy Garza's efforts advanced CPS Energy as an industry leader by developing one of the most effective leadership teams, enhancing the safety culture, and formalizing key short-term and long-term strategic initiatives. And whereas under his leadership, CPS Energy adopted a power generation plan, which resulted in CPS adding more power while keeping customer bills among the lowest in the state, setting us on a path to discontinue coal use and progressing towards climate action goals. And whereas his efforts played a pivotal role in initiating an essential enterprise-wide technology transformation, which focuses on adopting innovative technologies to streamline our internal processes and improve customer experience. And whereas Rudy also focused on strategically investing in our local economy to reflect CPS Energy's commitment to San Antonio and surrounding communities. And whereas he has been recognized for his ability to build partnerships and regain trust within our community by fostering collaboration and ensuring all community stakeholders' voices are heard, which resulted in stronger customer satisfaction during his tenure. And whereas Rudy emphasized engagement initiatives that strengthened organizational culture and challenged employees to work as one team, while at the same time providing insight and invaluable perspectives to the board and management on a wide range of issues affecting CPS Energy and its customers. And now, therefore, be it resolved that this Board of Trustees does hereby thank Rudy D. Garza for his 14 years of dedicated service to CPS Energy, and does hereby commend him for his leadership and strategic vision, and does hereby wish him continued success and opportunity as he leaves his position to take on new challenges. I would ask the board to vote in acclamation of this. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So approved. Thank you. Thank you, Rudy. And now I will pass it over to Rudy for his remarks.
All right, whoever made that graphic, I'm going to get you because you got me started off on a very difficult foot. Y'all know me, so just bear with me through this. I'm going to read it because I don't want to miss anybody. So as I begin this transition to a CPS Energy retiree and soon begin a new chapter, I want to acknowledge the incredible people that helped me reach this place. Without the support of each of you and the trust this organization and the community has placed in me, we would not have accomplished the important work that has positioned CPS Energy for a successful future. To the Board of Trustees, Dr. Mackey, thank you for trusting me to lead this organization over the past 5 years. Your confidence in me and your support for our vision helped lay the foundation for long-term success. Trustees, the success we've had, we've accomplished together. Thank you. Sorry. To my executive leadership team, together we've built one of the most effective, hardworking, and dedicated teams in the industry. I would not be standing here today without your support, partnership, and commitment to our mission. You all rallied around me at the beginning, and I'll never forget it. To the broader CPS Energy team, I want you to know that this decision was not made lightly. During the past 14 years, I've had the privilege of working alongside so many of you, and I've personally seen the dedication, professionalism, and passion that defines this organization. Sorry. To our field workers, you all know how much you mean to me. The work you do day in and day out is the foundation of this organization, and it always will be. Please continue to make safety your highest priority. No job is worth risking not returning home safely to your families. To the community, we've put service to our customers as our guiding principle. I cannot begin to thank the community for continuing to be behind us in the work we do for you. To all the leaders in the community that have had our backs in those difficult moments, and you know who you are, thank you. You are part of our one team as well. Over the past 14 years, I've grown both personally and professionally because of CPS Energy. This organization is truly a special place, and the people in it become family. I know CPS Energy will continue to accomplish great things for San Antonio and the community for generations to come, and I'm humbled to have played a small part in that mission. I'd like to formally congratulate Frank on being named interim president and CEO of CPS Energy. I have full faith in Frank's leadership to guide this utility even further into the future. It's why I hired him as my COO. Frank, I wish you nothing but success in this role. I'm excited to see where your leadership takes this organization. And as I told you earlier, I'm always just a phone call away, man. And finally, I want to thank my family, my wife, Emily, and my boys, Ben and Noah, for supporting me and the commitment that I had to give this organization over the last 14 years. You have seen me at my best and my worst moments, and I could not have done it without y'all being understanding of the responsibilities that this job requires. To all of San Antonio, thank you. I love you all, and God bless.
Thank you, Rudy. We will take a short break now to do some pictures in front of the dais. All right. Mr. Alvarez.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Rudy, wow, man, you're 101. People are really going to miss you. I was looking at the pictures up there a second ago thinking, who is that young man on the screen there? And it reminded me of when we had lunch, I think, on a Saturday maybe, my family and yours at Biggs Burger Joint. And the kids played and we talked about what was happening at CPS and what was gonna, what the future looked like. I had been here for a little bit and this was, right when you were joining. So we joined together and it's been really quite the ride. It's been a pleasure working with you. And I never would have guessed sitting there at that table with you that, all of the exciting things that you would have accomplished, all the exciting things that we together would have accomplished, and that one day you and I would be sitting over at this table together for a little bit. It's really an honor. So I want to thank you for your kind words of encouragement as I step into the role of interim president and CEO. Your support, along with the support of the board and our employees, gives me great confidence as we begin this next chapter together. I'm truly honored to lead this organization. As someone who was born and raised in San Antonio, I never imagined that one day I would have an opportunity to have a career here, get to sit in this chair. I recognize that leadership transitions can create uncertainty, and my primary objective is to ensure stability, continuity, and momentum during this time. I want to reassure our customers, employees, and community that throughout this transition, we will remain focused on the key initiatives that position CPS Energy for long-term success. We will continue advancing our Vision 2030 and Horizon 2050 strategic initiatives while delivering safe, reliable, and affordable service. Safety remains our highest priority. I also want to thank Rudy for his leadership and for strengthening the trust and relationship we have built with our community and stakeholders. We will continue building on that strong foundation. I have the utmost confidence in our employees and the leadership team. Together, we will continue moving CPS Energy forward. Thank you, thank the board for this opportunity.
Thank you. If you like.
I'd like to congratulate Mr. Alvarez for his the things that he's done for CPS Energy, because I remember him back a few years ago when he was a part of the CPS leadership team, and he was a part of the succession plan back then. It was about 4 or 5 of them, and there was some great leadership between Mr. Garza and Mr. Alvarez, very close leadership skills. So I can see the things that he's a man that his shoes are big enough to stand up and take charge and help to move this company forward. I remember a couple of instances where a couple of board members gave him some challenging moments. And I looked at him and I said, well, he's a tough person because I wouldn't have taken that. And I know I would have had a problem. But Mr. Amarez was very professional. And I always admired him for that because he stood his ground and the position that he was in, he gave us a bunch of ideas and leadership he really showed his leadership skills. So I always thank him and appreciate that. So you look where you're at now compared to where you were back in those days, and look where you are right now. Hey, we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
All right, onward and upward. Consent agenda. We have items 6, A, B, C, and D, and procurement items E, 1 through 5. Do any board members want to pull any consent agenda items?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Dr. Mackey,
Yes.
Trustee Dr. Gonzalez. Yes. Mayor,
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez,
Yes.
Chair,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, moving to our regular agenda, we are starting with item 7, board committee reports, which are included in our packet. These are from Audit and Finance Committee, Employee Benefits, Personnel Committee, Operations Oversight, Technology and Innovation, Personnel Committee, and the CIC Committee reports. Is there any discussion on any of those? There is no vote on this. All right, that moves us to item 8, Omicron Routing and Siting Project. Mr. Pettis.
Good afternoon. Just wanted to do a quick mic check. Good afternoon. My name is Leroy Pettis. I'm Vice President of our Transmission and Distribution Engineering and Grid Transformation. I'm happy to be here to provide an update of our Omicron Routing and Siting Transmission Project. This is a project that me and my team provided an update at the April 2025 OOC meeting, and I'll be providing some updates following that update that we provided the OOC in April of last year. So for the agenda today, I'm going to start off with providing a project overview. I will then get into our public involvement that we follow as part of our routing and siting projects. Then get into the Public Utility Commission of Texas, their process and the route that they selected and approved for this need. And then I will be concluding by requesting board action approving the project team to continue with the project. To kick off the project overview, this project is bringing benefits to the transmission system by bringing reliability. It'll support this area and the region. It'll support growth that we're experiencing in this area. It is needed due to the electric system growth. And then one item I wanted to point out is that following project completion of this project, we will be seeking T-cost recovery following the regulatory process that is established for that. So wanted to point out on the right is a map that shows the boundary of our service territory. The little aqua color that you see there is the study area for this project. It's located on the far west side of our service territory. The project scope is to build a new 138 kV double circuit transmission line starting from the Omicron substation. This extension will connect to an existing Cagnon to Howard transmission line. This project is part of an ERCOT studied, endorsed reliability project set, known also as the Omicron Reliability Project Set. This project is critical to the system. It'll add transmission capacity, which is needed to maintain reliability. and reduce both thermal and voltage overloads in this area. As part of the project process, the team identified 31 route options for the PUC's consideration. This project is located outside of the city boundary. The nearest council district is Council 4, and it is in Trustee Quadrant 4. The in-service date for this project is projected to be in November of next year. So getting into the public involvement, again, I mentioned our routing and siting projects always involve public involvement. We had an open house in February of 2025 of last year. It was at Ladera Elementary School there in the study area. We invited 634 property owners and residents that were associated with this project. There was 9 people registered at the booth during this. Part of the open house, as you can see a photo there, we set up booths with project team members that are subject matter experts in each of their areas. But we always provide input to the community of what the project entails, the need, the steps with the PUC and so forth. We also had additional outreach efforts. We stood up a project website, again, that's normal for routing and siting projects. Also had a project brochure, provided frequently asked questions, and provided an opportunity for the community that's in the area to provide responses to a questionnaire. Also provided multiple newspaper notice advertisements as part of the process. Again, in April of last year, following the open house, provided the OOC an update. And then the team in June of 2025 submitted our application and distributed packets to 602 unique landowners, making up about 809 parcels. Again, that was to kick off the PUC's process. So going into the PUC process and the decision, as I mentioned, we filed our CCN application in June of last year. Following that was an opportunity for landowners to participate in the PUC process, where they were given an opportunity to provide their testimonies and their statement of position. This was completed in August of last year. We then moved into hearing on the merits. This is part of the PUC process where both our internal key witnesses and my team, as well as our environmental consultant, who helped us establish and document an environmental analysis for this project, provided some testimony. This then moved us into the PUC considering the project. The PUC considers several factors. One is public input, why there's an opportunity for landowners to be involved. Environmental integrity is another criteria that the PUC considers. The PUC also looks at minimizing the number of impacted landowners, and another is minimizing costs for the projects. So following all these considerations and having the hearing, the PUC in March of this year issued its final order selecting and approving Route 26. I will show what that route is on the next slide. The map that you see on the right, we kind of unofficially call it our spaghetti map. It has all of the different route segments that make up end-to-end routes for consideration, but this is a map that includes 49 segments that, again, we established 31 end-to-end routes for the PUC's consideration, which eventually led them to select Route 26. The estimated cost for the project is $46.2 million. Again, that will be T-cost recoverable following the completion of this project sometime towards the end of next year, and then we will look into start the recovery the following year. The line is approximately 6 miles in length. So at this time, on the right, you can see the map showing the approved route. It is the route that is showing in red. The blue line that you see is an existing transmission line that this new line will extend from. and it'll traverse towards to the west, parallel to 11, and then end up at the Omicron substation that you can see at the top left corner of the map. And so with that, at this time, I am requesting board approval to approve a resolution which will allow us to proceed with the PUC-approved Route 26 and also execute planning, design, easement, acquisition, and construction of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pettis. I would like to just make sure we clarify some things for people who might be watching now or later, because sometimes we talk in acronyms, and we know this stuff a lot. I would like you first to just put this in context a little bit, because I think it's easy for people right now maybe to assume that anytime a line is being built, it's being built at the behest of data centers and solely to serve data centers. And so I would like you to put this in the bigger context of the state needs, and what the state is trying to achieve with this.
Sure. So the state is, and we work through ERCOT. ERCOT does reliability studies, and so this will benefit the greater area, not just CPS Energy at this area here, but given the load growth that we are seeing in this area, this line will help that load growth so that we can continue to reliably serve the load growth that we're seeing there. I mean, for those who haven't been in the far west, there's been over the years lots of residential growth, a lot of commercial growth, and so this line will support that ongoing growth. And as well, I mean, this is an area that is experiencing some of the large loads that we're seeing. The Omicron substation is what we call a dual purpose. It's intended for dual purpose. It'll be serving the large loads that are there, but also the continued community growth that we're expecting in this area as we've been seeing over the last several years.
Okay, thank you. And then I know you mentioned it twice about T-cost recovery, but can you just explain in a little more detail what that is and why that means that CPS Energy is not in the end spending $46.2 million on this?
Yes, I will try my best, and hopefully I don't have to lean on any of my colleagues here. But so TCOS, it stands for Transmission Cost of Service. That is, so transmission costs in Texas in ERCOT is spread across all of customers, electric customers, if you will, that are served through ERCOT, through the ERCOT system. So when we say TCOS recovery, it is a regulatory process where, yes, you're correct, Madam Chair, that we're not talking about the local customers of CPS Energy are completely paying for $46.2 million. This process is spread across all of the ERCOT ratepayers, customers in ERCOT.
Okay, and we pay equivalent to what our share of the market is?
That is my understanding.
Okay. And then just finally, if we do not agree to build this, what happens?
Well, as I mentioned, this is to maintain reliability, and so without this approval here, we wouldn't be able to move on with the next steps. And so knowing that the load growth is expected in this area, we could encounter reliability issues that could affect our local customers and the greater ERCOT region. So in other words, I mean, we would not be able to maintain a reliable transmission grid if this project is not.
Madam Chair, may I also offer that because this is a reliability project and because, you know, it's within our service territory but benefits us primarily but the state at large generally, this project will be built by somebody. We're going to build it at a better cost, and it will benefit our customers from a cost recovery. We'll get to earn some money on that project if we do it. And because our cost of capital is lower, it's going to cost less. But because somebody will ultimately build it if we do not, then the project itself you can just think of as, you know, maybe there'll be some delay administratively while we find somebody else to do it. Practically speaking, there's a lot that would go into that. But in the end, it will get built. But it will not be built at as cost-effective way as we can do it.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that if we don't build it, it does still get built. All right, let me open this up for questions. I'll start over here. Mayor, questions?
Not a question. I will be supporting this. As mentioned, even if we don't approve this, it'll still be billed. As a result of us building it, we're able to not only recoup the costs, but also a little bit on top of that, which is helpful for the 14% that comes into the city. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes, hey, thank you, Leroy, for the presentation. Of course, stated more than once, and you're going to hear this theme throughout several more board meetings this year. So infrastructure decisions are often required balancing long-term systems needs and community concerns, and we heard plenty of those today. Both deserve thoughtful consideration. So my question is, you talked about a public process. What community feedback had the greatest influence on the recommendation that you are providing today?
Well, again, the recommendation is or the approval request is to proceed with the PUC selection. But the input that we heard during the open house, if that's what you're asking, yes, I mean, the input that we were asked to make sure that was included in the CCN filing for the PUC's consideration just had to do with, there was a few factors. There was, give me one. Project costs was one, impact to wildlife, impact to business, impact to residents, and then also there was comments on visibility of structures.
I have a just quick follow-up. So how does, again, in your opinion, does this recommendation best balance reliability, cost, and community impact?
So in my opinion, the PUC's selection is looking at the route that they chose is one of the lowest costs of the 31 options. It is compared to the other 31 is the lowest cost. Also, the route that they chose was very strong in the environmental assessment compared to the rest.
And then the last thing, if any, what lessons learned from this process can improve future infrastructure planning efforts?
I think lessons learned is there's just the amount of time that it takes from start to this point in areas of growth. There's a lot of change, if you will. There's a lot of growth that's happening right there. So, I mean, I just think it's just keeping an eye and making sure that we keep projects moving forward. Not that we experienced any delays, but there's just a big boom that's happening out there, you know, as it's really driving the need of this project.
And the only thing I would like to add, I used to live out there and I moved away because I saw the growth. There's hospitals. We forget that it supports military readiness as well. Lackland is out there. Financial institutions are out there. So we often just focus on data centers. And obviously data centers wouldn't just be there. And again, I'm not in any shape or form advocating for them. But my point is that if we weren't so addicted to cell phones or mobile phones or tablets, and then institutions, fintech, military tech, there's a reliance on the reason why data centers are there. I want to thank you again for the 3 questions I asked and how you answered them. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair, any questions? Dr. Mackey, any questions? Dr. Gonzalez?
Yes, I just want to get some clarification. First of all, thank you for the presentation. It was very well done. I think when I had one of my briefings, when we were talking about the TCOS recovery, can you clarify for me whether this is guaranteed for us to get recovered?
If I could speak on that, just because we are about to start our filing for our TCOS case, so discussion of recovery, I think, is super important right now. The short answer is no. So the process for submitting transmission costs for reimbursement requires the project to be in use and useful, so it's got to be actually up and running. There are interim processes to recover before that, but this would be, so once it's in service, we submit the costs. We're allowed to be reimbursed for reasonable costs and expenses. And as the mayor noted, our city payment is including in the costs that are recovered. So there is a benefit to San Antonio for building transmission lines, but there is no guarantee. As Frank mentioned, we are one of the lowest cost builders. So I would say that our costs are reasonable. But again, the short answer is no.
And just for transparency's sake, because, we hear that from the community, right? They want transparency, and this is why I'm asking this question. Would it be fair to say that even though it's not guaranteed, right? Nothing's guaranteed, the likelihood of us getting, then we're confident that we're going to get recovery cost for this? Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I just offer, Dr. Gonzalez, that it's the Public Utility Commission offers us an opportunity to be reimbursed for reasonable cost and earn a reasonable rate of return. And because we're very careful, and because CPS Energy is well-run, Leroy's team does a great job, our rates and regulatory filings team does a great job, I think it's reasonable to say we have a high degree of confidence that we're going to pass the very rigorous process that the Public Utility Commission runs and have a very favorable outcome. But of course, that's not rubber stamped, and I think that's what Shanna was getting at. But of course, as I said, I think we have a high confidence in the process.
Yeah, and I have confidence too. I just want to make sure that we're translating that, as transparently as possible to our community.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we are voting on this one. The motion would be request for approval to approve the resolution, which allows us to proceed with the route and then to execute planning, easement acquisition, and construction of the project. Is there a motion?
Just for clarification, there is an associated resolution that you would also be approving.
Yes. I said approve a resolution. Oh, that's good. Okay, is there a motion?
Yes, I'm.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Dr. Mackey?
Yes.
Trustee Dr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez? Yes. Chair?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pettis.
Thank you.
All right, we are on item 9, fiscal year 27 first quarter performance update with Ms. Ball and Mr. Kuczynski.
Good afternoon. Today, Corey and I will be presenting on the first quarter results for fiscal year 2027. As a reminder, our fiscal year begins in February, so this information reflects performance for the period February 1st through April 30th of this year. So we will touch on our routine updates on our scorecard, and then I'll turn it over to Corey relative to our financial performance and outlook. So switching to slide 3, this is our graphical view of the large bodies of work that we have underway this year. As through the first quarter, all of the activities that we have planned are on track. I will touch base on our enterprise measures. We have one measure that is marked at risk at this point in the year. Let me go the other way. And that measure is our plant availability, or we summarize it based on the critical months availability factor. And this is plant performance during the months of January, February, and June through September. So for all intents and purposes, this calculation effectively is just covering the month of February. And so during this first quarter, we have had a few plants that have had some unplanned outages. Most of those outages have been with our older units. Summers 2 is most notably driving this number, and we've had a low-pressure turbine blade repairs occurring at that site. Additionally, we've had some challenges with our boilers at certain units, and you'll hear from the summer readiness activities with the power gen team, but the team has put together and is implementing robust mitigations around boiler repairs and preventative maintenance. And we've also had an event at one of our combined cycle units in February as well, involving a current transformer. The teams worked very hard to get that unit back, and it was really a cross-functional effort between power gen and transmission. And so that's effectively the metric that we do have at risk. I will also, though, flag we've had a very stormy spring. And so while not marked on this through this period, average customer outage duration is something we're going to keep our eyes on, because we have had quite a few storm events with a considerable number of customers experiencing outages. So with that, I'll turn it over to Corey.
All right, good afternoon, trustees. I will continue on the conversation here. As Elena mentioned, we're looking at our first quarter performance. And as we've mentioned before, the first quarter financially, those are shoulder months. Typically not long enough to really get too many trends or insights. But I'll hit on a few things on this slide. We'll look at revenue and we'll look at our expenses and a few other topics. On the left-hand side, you can see our non-fuel revenue. This is what we typically track because fuel, as you know, is a pass-through commodity cost. The blue represents our plan, the orange represents our actual performance, and our actual performance is a little bit below plan, not materially, but a couple of drivers. It was a bit milder these shoulder months than we had anticipated, and our wholesale revenue was just coming in a little bit below our forecast, and our customer count was a little bit below where we had planned. All said, still making positive momentum on the non-fuel revenue side. I don't think any actions are needed at this point. On the operations and maintenance side, the O&M side, you can see we're right at plan there in terms of actual to plan. Various moving pieces moved up and down, but when it nets out, our operation and maintenance is about even. As Elena had mentioned, we've had a strong storm season, and so one of the items that is above on a line item basis is storm costs, storm response. That's kind of continued on in the second quarter, and so I'll mention it later, but I think we'll see a little bit additional spend on the O&M side, just restoring all of our customers this spring. On the bottom part there, you can see transmission capital and non-transmission capital. On the transmission capital, these are large projects. I think at this point I'd represent it as a function of timing and execution on these projects. We had just under $500 million in our budget plan for this, so there's a lot of spend, and these projects are quite large. On the non-transmission capital, the big gap between our plan and our actual spend is we have yet to close on the STP additional 2% that we had acquired. That's about $80 million of that delta. We hope to have that from a regulatory perspective resolved shortly, and so I think that'll make up a lot of the gap there. So again, I think for the first quarter results, we're doing fine. No actions necessary at this point. Pivoting to our accounts receivable and our past due view, we've seen this look before, kind of a summarized view. Just a couple of key points looking left to right. Since our peak in October, we've come down significantly in terms of the nominal dollar past due. You can see year over year, we're down from the total of $112 million to $103 million. So still making progress. And of that $103 million, we have about 44% of our customers are on payment plans. So that's a critical statistic. That's a positive statistic. The second bullet there is that the success rate for customers who are enrolled in payment plans is about 80%, or a little bit over depending on the season. Again, that is an excellent statistic, especially when benchmarked across the country. And then noted there in that third bullet is kind of where we rank in the percent of receivables that are current. And I think as it notes, we're ranked third. I think worth noting is when you look at our customer counts going back to January of 2020, back then we were in around 80% of our customers current, and if you look today, we're about 81%. So from a customer count and a ratio perspective, the customers that are current are trending kind of historical pre-COVID norms, which that's good. And I think noted in the bottom there, which is a great fact, is that nationally past due accounts have actually been growing, while over the last handful of years ours have been reducing. And I think that continues to be a testament to Deanna Hardwick's team and the outreach that they've been doing over the last 3 years, and the fact that we're working on payment plans that really are focused on honestly what a customer can pay instead of kind of arbitrary 3 or 4 month timelines. If you look ahead, it's kind of a headwinds tailwind slide. From a headwinds perspective, I think it's pretty obvious. You can see headlines around economic pressure, geopolitical pressure, and I think all of that can impact our customers in various ways, from their pocketbook to commodity costs, et cetera. So we continue to keep our eye on those. Borrowing costs. We've been in an inflationary environment that we thought would have been heading down at this point when we were doing our planning. So I think there's maybe a slightly elevated risk for borrowing costs being a little bit above planned. But the flip side on the tailwind is that the money that we do have on hand is earning a little bit higher interest rates than we had anticipated because yields on the money markets are higher than we had forecasted. So that probably has a netting impact. Additionally, from a tailwind perspective, our consumers and our customers have still remained resilient. And I think, again, it speaks to the work we're doing in the community to try and get folks on plans that are struggling. I'll note that, all of our affordability programs are still in full force. We just extended the affordability discount plan to maintain that discount for folks at the 150th percentile for the balance of the year. And we're seeing some benefit on the fuel costs being lower than we had planned, which helps not just on the generation side, but also from the wholesale margin side. Okay, so just kind of looking ahead, as I mentioned, it's still early. A lot of kind of macroeconomic uncertainty and geopolitical uncertainty. We'll keep our eye on that. We can only control what we can control, but we'll do our best for that. As we go into the second quarter, we'll keep an eye on weather and customer growth to see if those trends kind of persist from quarter one or they kind of level out. And I did mention on the cost side, do expect O&M to be a little bit higher because of our heavy storm season, but we have a lot of moving pieces in our operation and maintenance budget, so yet to be seen kind of where we think that'll land. And on the capital side, as I mentioned, we have a lot of elements in there, large projects that at this point I'd say are just a function of timing. There may be some additional transmission spend for some of these large projects that may come in a little bit over, but again, kind of a TBD on that. Countering all of that is really a tailwind that I'll note here about the potential inclusion of another nuclear production tax credit that we anticipate receiving and filing rather for this year. That was not in our original plan. At the time we had made our budget, we had filed one last year, but it had been over 6 months since we had heard back, so we had uncertainty whether that tax credit was actually going to be real for us. So I think since the last time we spoke, this is a tailwind for us going forward. And, as I kind of wrap up and close with the metrics slide here, I'll kind of, again, reiterate, at this point, I don't think there's any action needed. I think the comments that we made during the budget approval was for us to go through the year, get through the other side of summer to see how our financial performance is looking before we make any calls, kind of on a go-forward basis in terms of how we think we'll finish the year. The way things are trending, again, I think we got green check marks right now, and we'll be happy to answer any questions between Elena's presentation or mine, but that'll kind of wrap up my remarks for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I will start with questions on my right this time. Trustee Dr. Gonzalez, questions?
I'm just wondering, when you were discussing the production tax credit, do you have an idea of what that estimate might be?
We think it'd be comparable to last year's, and last year's was about $117 million, so it could be approximately that or a bit larger, but more to come.
I had a quick question. Probably asked this before. On slide 7, and we talk about the success rate for customers enrolled in payment plans is 80%. Does that mean that does success mean they stay on the payment plan, or
Yes.
that they become current?
Stay on the plan. Okay. Yes, that they stay on their plan.
Oh, I'm getting an answer from AI, so you better hurry up and come up here. I didn't hear the answer. I'm sorry.
It's that they stay on their plan.
They stay on their plan. They may or may not become current.
Yeah, this is just, as of now, the folks we have enrolled that are staying current. So, it's kind of like a rolling stat is how I've kind of view it, right? Yeah.
But not necessarily getting to the point where they're in one given month, they're now at 0. They've paid off everything until the next month.
Oh, no, these could be folks that are current but still past due.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Trustee Gonzalez?
I do. First of all, thank you. You and I have had back and forth emails, so I appreciate that. Even over the weekends, you and Frank and I, and even questions to Elena. And so with that being said, performance metrics are important. They influence organizational focus, and I appreciate, again, the opportunity not only to review the outcomes, but also understand what they tell us about the future. I think you talked a little bit to it. Looking at these results, which indicators are more predictive of future success and which indicators are causing management greater concern?
I think they all tell their own story. If I kind of go back to this page right here, on the revenue side, I look at that in terms of kind of on a go-forward basis, so performance. I think this first quarter has been interesting because the core business from a non-fuel revenue perspective has been a little underplanned, but we've had some kind of non-fuel and non-core revenue coming in the door, which has helped us. I think a long-term measure of health is really your debt to capitalization ratio. You really want to kind of maintain that within the given metrics that you've established and communicated to the rating agencies. So the financing plan that we've previously approved, I think, is a really good kind of exercise in making sure you execute and maintain kind of where you anticipate on a go-forward basis. And then, cash is king. So days cash on hand is an incredibly important metric. We monitor that all the time. And if there's anything that I kind of want to make sure we're on top of and that we don't fall below, it's probably that metric. So hopefully that gives you an answer to your question.
Yeah, I think the things that keep me up at night, I think over the weekend, so the feds will probably keep it stable for now, but increase rates.
Yeah.
Even over the weekend, I think one of my concerns is when I walk into my mom's house and it's like 100 degrees where she does not want to turn on that system. And so finding an alternative way to make sure that she stays cool. The other thing that concerns me about volatility right now is just the cost of living is just like really, really high right now. And so when I think about how we're balancing things, and yes, we've been really good. We do have 9, and I want to stress, we have 9 different type of plans out there to make utilities affordable and reduce their burden. So again, it will be helpful if we keep reminding individuals about those plans. And then again, the things that do again concern me as we look at the different modeling, when is it better, again, the combination of unique financing tools. We've had the privilege of having low interest rates or unique financial tools. How can we again diversify the different tool sets that we have to reduce any burden that we can while still maintaining the complexity of what we have to do, which is resiliency, affordability, and safety. And under the recent administration, I think an executive order under the current president, there's going to be a more emphasis on security, which will mean more costs that we probably weren't anticipating to the current modernization plan. So are we considering those executive orders, how that might also translate into future costs that were not calculated under the current Evolve program? So again, thank you. You don't have to answer into today, just bookmark that those are things that maybe were not calculated even 6 months ago. And then today we have to consider executive orders as well as, again, rising costs, potentially rising interest rates. And then, of course, inflation isn't going down. And here we go. So thank you again, all of you, for the presentation.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. You can keep that chart up going. One of my questions is related to that. I know we will hear August timeframe-ish regarding the resources we have on hand, which would then impact the need to potentially come before myself and the city council for a rate increase. As you've heard me say, Chair, I really want to make sure that we are cognizant of the range is helpful and how much leeway we can give ourselves in that range is really important. Last we spoke, I think your gap is only $50 million, which is 1%, right, of your budget. And so when the days cash on hand has a $500 million range, we want to make sure that we're being as conservative as needed, given, of course, the other hats I wear and as alluded to, the affordability challenge many in our community are already facing. Thank you, Shana and Elena, for answering the question on the local investment. I want, if you would, share that response with the rest of the group for their edification, because again, when you look at the chart, 70% still seems like we've got some room to stretch. So I think walking folks through that process to help us understand whether 72 or 74 could actually be more helpful, I think that'd be helpful. Shana, you're the one that responded to my email, so I'll leave that to you instead of Corey, if you'd like to share that now. Yeah, go ahead.
If Lisa's here, Miss Author of said shared information, will you come up and explain how we landed on that 70% and how it compares to some of our peer organizations?
Sure. Each year when we set the target, we actually review the pending anticipated procurement for the year. So we look at what's ahead of us in terms of what we'll need to buy, estimate out of that what we can acquire locally. So you're speaking to the local procurement metric, what we can procure locally, and we set the target based on what we know we're going to spend in the year and the things we are going to buy or procure for. The last several years, it's been at 70%. We've been a little bit above or below that each year. When I say a little bit, usually like a percent variation up or down. If we look at what we're reporting in spending through the Supply SA organization, we actually follow an apples to apples comparison. Our peer entities all go through a process where they remove some categories of spend from the procurement that they report because there are things they cannot buy locally. For us, it's things like transformers and certain types of cable and things like that that we're not going to get locally. When we compare at that level, we're at 82% local spend if we take those categories out. And so we, never going to declare victory and it's done, but we feel like we're making positive progress on that, and we've made a fair amount of progress over the last 5 years. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you for that. So clarifying, there's some, because when you take out the things that we cannot purchase locally,
Yes.
the percent of investment that we actually make in the community is closer to 80 plus.
It's 80 plus,
percent,
yes, ma'am.
not the 71. I think that's really important and a good demonstration of the things that we're trying to do locally, especially given the changes at the federal level that are frankly exacerbating, frankly, some inequities in our community. So demonstrating the way in which this municipally owned utility is doing the best that we can at the local level to right that, I think is important. So, please clarify that. And then the credit on the nuclear piece, Shana or Corey, that's something that we will continue to receive, correct?
Yeah, we have to file it every year and needs to get approved. But yes, we anticipate filing this year.
Great, thank you.
Just to follow up, is there a reason that we can't change that metric on local spend? We could? Okay.
It can be changed. We review the metrics with the board annually, as you know, through the Ops Oversight Committee. So if there's something we want to do or look at differently, that is an option. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I will ask Trustee Gonzalez, as the chair of that committee, to at least consider that as
Well, it's hard to consider it since in the last couple of, over the years, so we've asked for data to be reviewed. I believe the last meeting, Dr. Erica Gonzalez and I asked for supply spend by codes and, because I think there's a difference. When we say we spend, there's different ways to spend. There's emerging companies, there's established companies, there's veteran-owned companies under new mandates, and so I would be open to looking at that with Dr. Gonzalez and as a chair's request, but I need more details. Right now, it's too broad.
We can get that to you. We measure numerous, to your point,
I've asked that over
numerous
the years,
categories.
yeah.
I'll have it to you this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? This is just a briefing, not a vote. Yes, Mayor?
Yeah, and I would support that as we look at, as a municipally owned utility, as much as of the sector that we can create in San Antonio is all the better. So knowing what we don't already have and not just assuming that we can never have it, but rather could take steps to create it, I think is where we'd like to be. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. It does get confusing with the different categories of spend, but I think that one, just peeling off things that we can purchase locally, it helps. I think it clarifies it. All right, then we are moving to item 10, energizing progress together with Mr. David Key. And I want to strike a balance here. I know we have all seen this presentation several times, but of course we want to make sure the community is getting all the information out here. So I will leave it to your discretion as to how much detail you want to go into with the slides, and we can certainly ask questions when you're done.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thanks. My name is David Key. I'm the Director of Energy Market Policy. Thank you for the time to allow me to continue the discussion. succinctly on how we plan to energize progress together for our community as we continue to grow. Today, I'll provide an overview of our generation plan and recap our observations. We are requesting approval of our updated blended strategy, which is going to guide our teams as we continue our ongoing work to maintain adequate power supplies for our customers. And Chair, like you noted, we have seen this before, but this is more of an overview slide. This is one of those pictures tell 1,000 words. So I'll use this and spend some time on it and move quickly through the other slides. Really wanted to focus on this because it tells us where we started, where we are today, and what we have, what we are facing going forward. And where did we start? You know, this graphic shows us in 2022, and this is really a simplified view of our power plants and what was in our generation plan at the time, and some of the power plants we already own, which are shown here in blue, and other plants we recently added, shown in kind of that lighter orange and the darker orange. And you'll notice that the blue line, like I said before, it really tapers off heading into 2029. We have generation retirements. Now, these retirements were not a surprise. I don't think we've talked about that very much. I wanted to spend a couple of minutes on that. Really, we started planning for these retirements back in the Rate Advisory Committee process what we did 4 years ago. When we ramped up that work, we knew we had retirements. We knew we had growth going forward, and we saw that as our opportunity to engage with the community and develop our community-backed, board-approved generation plan. Back then, it was called Vision 2027 Generation Plan. And really, it's how we're going to meet the needs that we saw 4 years ago. And you can see by that black line, which shows the demand forecast from 4 years ago, we could see a lot of it coming. We saw the retirements, we saw load growth. So we had a lot assumed and taken into account as part of that process. Now, when I talk about the retirements, that's the blue area. We did make some acquisitions. You can see we have some of that lighter orange that shows up in the near term. And that's really the Corpus Christi, Laredo assets and the assets over by Houston. Those are things we did to implement the generation plan and get us to a place where we're going to be able to provide power heading into 2030. And that was a focus back in 2024. Back 4 years ago in the RAC process, our focus was really on 2030. It was a 25-year plan, but really when we were talking about it, we was really focused on 2030, and we've been executing to that. So we feel like we're in a good place. And so that's where we are today. We've talked about it in the past already at the last meeting on what we see going forward, and that's that gray sliver or the future needs. So wanted to spend some time reorienting, trying to understand where we were and where we're going to be heading towards, and really showing that it's more of an incremental need than a whole refresh, whole redesign of everything. That's why we did a little bit shorter process this time. Also wanted to say back when we did the generation planning as part of the RAC process, there was an extensive discussion on the funding that's going to be required for each of these steps. None of those assumptions and none of those requirements have changed. This still requires ongoing rate support throughout the process, and those are things we'll have in future discussions. So looking forward, I did speak to the demand forecast. We saw that has changed. I did want to highlight here, and this is something, again, we've seen in the past, but it's worth re-emphasizing that we don't just see only data center growth. We do see a lot of growth on the data center side, which gets lumped into the commercial there, but that also includes, our large manufacturers, our large grocers, manufacturing, all the different things go into the commercial bucket. The residential side is also seeing some strong growth. And this, you can see the comparison from where we're starting today to what we see going forward. And so this is something that we wanted to bring back and remind the board and those watching on what we're looking at going forward. And all of this is part of our demand assumptions going into the process. Also included is how does our community look at the generation plan process? We ranked it based on priorities that were established as part of the RAC process 4 years ago. And a large part of our engagement was to survey our customers and to confirm the board's priorities that we developed back in that RAC process. Surveys showed, as you can see here, that reliability remains the top priority, followed by value and cleaner energy. Before I get into our observations, we did want to remind everybody what we were looking at when we did talk about the evaluation process that we used. Just showing here, it's our updated blended plan is a right sizing of our approved generation plan to meet our needs going forward and allows technology types to be optimized, but it keeps those main priorities intact. Moving through the other parts is the zero emitting power resources. Starting with our current plan, what will we need to do to get to a zero emitting power resources if we go forward from there? And it's adding additional zero carbon, which is wind, solar, storage, and nuclear, and comparing against alternative priorities. The natural gas focused one really looks at starting at the plan given today. If we only added natural gas, what would that look like? And then the last one on the bottom right is, if we started today and we didn't make any adjustments, what would happen? And we would basically close the gap, the gray part that we showed earlier, with market purchases. We've talked about that before. So this is just to reorient on what we saw last time and what to look for in our observations that we see here. Quickly, I'll just remind everybody again that that triangle is at the top right. That just reminds us how we have to balance affordability, the price risk, and the environmental sustainability. We don't just have one as the key driver. It's really a balance of the three. As we look at the summary, we don't have any changes to the numbers that are substantive compared to last month. Actually, no changes. This is just the same with some updated formatting to show that the updated blended plan is a recommendation. But here we believe supporting the strategy provides direction to staff and flexibility for the board to allow us to design their portfolio in the way that makes sense and follows these themes. I want to spend some time on the middle column in the blue. And as a follow-up to our last discussion, Trustee Dr. Gonzalez pointed out that there could be potential confusion on how the dollar signs can be received. Point was well taken. The team did work through to understand our different audiences and how that can come across. I wanted to spend a couple of seconds talking through just explaining the reason behind the dollar signs. So when we talk here at the board level, the dollar signs really represents the relative financial risk associated with reliability. When we think of reliability, we usually think the grid reliability. For this one, since we're talking about generation planning, the reliability is really about our power plants, our power generators. If they're not reliable, what does that mean for our customers? It does have a cost impact. If our power plants are not reliable for whatever reason, if they don't start up or if they don't run, then we, CPS Energy, our customers, will get a bill from the ERCOT wholesale market. This is the cost of reliability, and it's why we use a dollar sign. Now, speaking more broadly, and I think this is the main message I received from the trustee, is we need to focus on this concept of financial risk a little bit more effectively with our community. So when we go out to the community, we need to figure out how to convey more of a bill shock, because that's really what this is. If our power plants aren't available, if we don't have the ability to produce power, we'll have to go to the market, and there's a risk that we'll have some higher prices, which is going to result in a bill shock. So we'll take that back. We'll work on this in a part of our messaging and our graphics, but just wanted to emphasize and just revisit this as it was a topic of discussion last time. We just heard that our community is facing increased costs and volatility in our lives. Costs just don't go up and down. They seem to spike, and that's also something that we look at the price risk. When we look at this summary of observations, some people may refer to it as a scorecard. It's really, what are we seeing for the bills? What are we seeing for our generation plan? What are we seeing for our risk? What are we seeing for our cap goals? When we went out to the community and listened to what was important, it was about basically bills. So there's a lot of focus on that first column. I'd say from my perspective, when I look at this, we're looking at predictability. If I know what the bill is going to be and I have less volatility, that seems to be a better answer than having maybe a lower bill with higher volatility, because either way it's going to come out in the customer bill. I think that's something that may not be as apparent to folks that are looking at this information. You know, you may see the lowest affordability, let's go with that. So I wanted to kind of walk through that. This view just provides a larger view of the generation plan options that we evaluated. What's important to note here is the view of the current plan in today's price environment at the bottom left. I did mention that if we don't do anything today, how do we fill that gap? You can see there's about 9% in market purchases. For context, and I don't have exact numbers for operations, but that would be very much over and above what we already to do when we participate in the market. We do not go into the market planning for a 10% market shortage, trying to buy from the market that much capacity and that much power. So that would be a big shift in our operations. That would be something that we would have to really consider. And that's really what's driving this. I'll go back one slide. It's really what's driving that price risk. If we have to go to the market, then there's going to be some volatility, and that's something more than what we do today. I know there's been discussions on, we have some power in the market, and to a sense we do, but it is a commodities market, and so that is really the key risk there driving the, I guess, the reason we shouldn't be, or we should think about how we handle that if we don't do anything today. Yep, and so I just wanted to cover that, and looking at our updated blended plan, you can see the build out there. This is what our portfolio would look like if you look to 2040. This is what the makeup would be without being very specific on exact numbers of generators and power plants and different wind farms and solar farms and storage facilities. You can see it's highly renewable with a whole lot of wind, solar, and storage. There's also included in this is demand side management. That is something that we've heard is important to understand. How do we account for what part of our portfolio is demand side management? And those are things like rooftop solar, demand response, thermostat programs, all the different things that we do on the customer side, both as the residential and the commercial levels. This is a view of how that plays into the portfolio. There's a lot more detail and nuance to it, but this is the most simple way we can show it to help understand the order of magnitude that we see in the demand side. Okay, so looking ahead, when we think about today's vote and the next steps, the actions we're going to be taking once we hear back from the board, really we're going to focus on continuing to execute Vision 2027 in the near term. So the next 5 years is going to focus on finishing out the wind, solar, and storage. Also the conversion of Spruce 2 from coal to natural gas. And that's really going to be the focus for the next 5 years. Going forward, past that, we'll need to focus on right-sizing the portfolio, which includes all of the things you see here: wind, solar, storage, natural gas, nuclear assets, even some hydrogen. All that's going to be in there. We'll note that that's going to be through 2050, so it's going to be pushed out and phased as appropriate. And as we get closer to the planning horizons, we will bring those projects to the board. We will follow our board-approved procurement process. So as we need to go into engineering, procurement, construction, all those different phases of these bigger projects, especially if we're going to be building power plants, this is where we're going to be bringing forward projects. So I wanted to reassure the board, or give the board an idea, give you all an idea of what it means today after approval, we can expect. And I think we've also committed to coming back on a more regular basis to give updates on the status, updates on our generation planning, because it is an effort, it is a process that we do internally on a very regular basis, at least yearly, sometimes more. And it's worth adding that transparency and bringing back status updates to the board on that. So I wanted to give a sense of what we have to look forward going ahead. With that, I will close with the summary of the request for approval. Basically, the generation planning process. It feels a little different than last time. It's because it's not as publicly intensive. We did not have a RAC. We didn't go through a year-long worth of learning how to do generation planning. The team did, however, do a lot of work to maintain and reevaluate the plan, given all of the fundamental priorities that the board and the community have set forth back as part of the RAC process. We want to maintain stability and continuity in time of high growth and volatility. We're confident that this strategy will allow our teams to execute and stay ahead of the growth curve, giving us all time to develop options for us to consider. And you can see there, we just copied back in the pie chart of what our aspirational goal of this plan looks like. If we look to 2040, this is what the power generation fleet would look like. So with that, I think that's it for me. So I'll say thank you, and I think we have comments from our CIC chair, unless board.
Yes,
Chairman?
thank you. I just wanted to introduce our CIC chair, Steve Bonnet, who's going to come up, and as he's walking up there, I did want to recognize 3 other members from the CIC who has played a very important role in this process. Peter Onofre, Michael Kanik, and Bob Zapata are all here. If I missed anybody, raise your hand. No, I said Peter Onofre.
You want you to say it twice.
You're not hearing me today. I don't know. Maybe it's me. But thank you all for all that you've done, and thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and the trustees for the opportunity to highlight some of the aspects of the Community Input Committee's feedback on the generation plan refresh. I am Steve Bonnet. I'm the chair of the CIC, and for the benefit of folks who may be watching the streaming online, just wanted to mention that the CIC is a 19-member volunteer advisory body appointed by the Board of Trustees, and it's comprised of CPS customers with diverse backgrounds and interests from across the CPS service area. Our committee provides input and feedback on strategic objectives, key initiatives, and other CPS Energy business activities to you, the CPS Energy Board of Trustees, and to management. Over the past year, the CIC has received regular updates on the utility's execution of the current generation plan, including key accomplishments, evolving market conditions, and emerging trends. Those updates have provided us an important context for understanding why an update to the generation plan is warranted and what factors are driving that need. At several opportunities throughout the past year, our committee members have offered a variety of perspectives and asked detailed questions for staff to evaluate as part of their efforts to update this plan. As discussions were progressing, members began to narrow their focus to key considerations such as reliability, affordability, resiliency, carbon intensity, impacts to community health, and controlling costs for customers. I want to thank each CIC member for their thoughtful engagement and inputs, and as you introduced them, some of them are here today with us. There was a diversity of thought and perspective, which is exactly how the CIC, we believe, is designed to function. While individual members have emphasized different priorities, for the most part, there has been a broad recognition of the need for a balanced approach that addresses multiple objectives while minimizing risks associated with overly relying on a single fuel source or buying power from the market. Members also understood that this is not an overhaul of the Vision 2027 generation plan, but is a substantial review and update of that successful plan to account for changes in technology, market conditions, and load growth projections. Committee members generally view the blended approach as a prudent path that maintains our flexibility, supports reliability, and positions the utility to adapt as future conditions and resource needs evolve. This approach best minimizes financial risk to both the agency and its customers, which is really most important for our San Antonio community. Like the community at large, CIC members ranked reliability as the most important factor when considering updates to the generation plan, followed by affordability and then cleaner energy. Finally, I believe that CIC members generally felt the community engagement around the generation plan refresh was appropriate. To wrap up, I understand the board received a summary of CIC's community survey results and the individual open-ended responses that we made on the generation plan questionnaire. I hope the combination of those items and my brief summary today has given the board an accurate and helpful view of the CIC's feedback on this topic, and of course, I'm open to any questions that you have.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate this. We really rely on the CIC. Of course, it's not our only way of reaching out to the public, but it is a very important way that we have. And you are right about there is definitely a diversity of thought on that board. They ask a lot of questions. There are a lot of presentations that are made in response to their very specific questions, and there is always a good, healthy discussion at these meetings because I always attend them and take a whole lot of notes. And I do have a hard copy of those responses if anybody's interested in that. And it wasn't just the survey, it was the open-ended responses, and they were very helpful. very nuanced, and this is a group of people that has really dug in and learned some really hard material, and really appreciate that. So thank you for standing by for questions if we have them. And I want to start off with David for a moment.
By the way, if I may, just a point of personal privilege, since Rudy's not here, I wanted to acknowledge that, well, first I want to thank you, Madam Chair, for coming to the CIC meetings. It's a tremendous opportunity to have interaction with you there. And Rudy, of course, I came whenever he could, which is quite often. And I was amazed that a CEO had time for us. But it was a great opportunity for us to have one-on-one discussions with him. No pressure, Frank. But anyway, I'm open for questions. You can call me back.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, sometimes we had to stop Rudy from talking at this. So, and I appreciated that one of our citizens said this, that he wasn't trying to be condescending, and I'm not trying to be condescending, but I just want to be clear on this. We are voting today on a strategy, on a pie chart. We are not voting on a rate increase. We are not voting on a rate increase. We are not voting on any purchases. And so I just wanted to emphasize that point again. We are voting on a strategy going forward.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, I will open it up over on this side. Trustee Gonzalez? Or?
I actually do have a question for the CIC leadership. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was 4,265 surveys that represent the customer base. Is that correct, that y'all evaluated, or we evaluated, or we took?
Well, the staff did that for us.
Okay, so my other question for you, in your discussions, and since I wasn't there at those meetings, was there ever a question, and even though I respect and I understand this is not a rate increase conversation, but I do ask, was there ever that trade-off question? When we recommend or we say we're going to support a blended mix, does that tell us if customers would accept a 2% annual rate increase for medium-paced transition or 5% for fast-paced? And the reason why I asked that question is I was out there in the community too. I got to attend District 4 in the presentations. And again, I don't believe that in any shape or form leadership, both, I can't speak for the diocese, but leadership out there when we do these presentations are in any shape or form not being transparent. But I do believe when you have those discussions at CIC, we say that it doesn't lead to a rate increase, but there's a cost in producing this. It was just put up on that slide. So what conversation, if any, took place at CIC of any trade-off conversations? What are we willing to sacrifice or prioritize if there's no rate increase? Or if the budget can support all these things?
Well, that's a loaded question, but.
And I ask these questions because the CIC is very crucial.
Yes.
As trustees.
In the context of what we were looking at, our first consideration is affordability. If anyone who knows the San Antonio community, and we
I do know it, 7807.
And cost is very, very, very important. And although we're providing, the staff has always provided us information that we have some of the lowest rates in the state, we're still a poorer community. So you really can't compare us to Dallas and Houston, but we've always taken that into account. Two things that I think came up with the most frequently is it's affordability and health. Making sure that we protect the health of the San Antonio citizens. But we recognize that the more we go into technologies that really haven't gotten to the point where they're cost effective yet, although they're coming, and we will be tracking that. We were concerned about this agency taking a risk financially. And if this agency takes a risk financially, that ultimately comes back to the ratepayers. And that puts all of us at risk.
Can you elaborate what you mean by risk financially? I lost.
By risk what?
Can you elaborate what you mean by risk financially?
Well, probably the worst case is what David was talking about, is going to, the idea of going to the market. You know, if we can't produce the energy we need for our area, we have to buy it from the market. The market for power, and probably David can probably elaborate more than I have, it has a tendency to fluctuate. It's sort of like, you know, watch the stock market from day to day, how it fluctuated. You know, when we had the storm, Tropical Storm Uri, we saw that fluctuate wildly. And we know what the consequences with that were. We really don't want, we want to be in a situation that we have a reliable system that will operate through the worst times that we have. Because if it doesn't, then we go to the market. And that's where the risk is. That's where we risk all of the taxpayers' money. They're paying for power. We're consciously making that risk.
Thank you
And
for
we're
that.
putting them at risk at the same time. We don't want to do that.
One last question. Any lessons learned how we can improve the process for CIC in the public?
The process, that's a heavy, that's a heavy question at all. I think we really appreciate the opportunity we have to play some kind of minor role in giving direct feedback back to the staff and to you whenever you need it. So we work at your service, and we're pleased to look at any issue, and Dr. Romero keeps us up to date every month on issues that are coming up, so that we're trying to anticipate that. But we're glad to be of service to the board.
Thank you very much for your answering those questions. And thank you to the entire CIC.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Big picture, right? People are looking at this not only in the context of what we're dealing with locally, but I think also for example, the recent statements made by the governor in terms of what data centers do and don't have to do. So as folks are, as the chair mentioned, making a connection between what we're doing locally to generate power as it relates to the demand and who's driving it. Can you speak to how the governor's recent statements about what data centers have to do, how does that impact what you've outlined here, or recommended here?
Yes, that's a very good question. I appreciate that because it's
Hi,
very
David.
timely.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, I'm just, as I think about it, that's the top question I think I've been preparing for. It's very difficult to say right now, and it's very nuanced, but I'll just try to, like you said, high level. Basically, the governor has made a statement saying, we need to take action at a certain level. Unfortunately, the governor's, letters do not become law or haven't become law yet. So we're going to watch the PUC, who he directed to make these changes. We're going to be watching ERCOT, who he directed to make changes. It's really how we engage there. We already have been very engaged in both arenas, both at the PUC and at ERCOT, as they work to update all of the different ways that they have to basically design the system for these large, we'll call them data centers because that's what they are, but basically they're calling them large computational loads. How does the system need to be able to be updated to plan for those? How does the cost allocation work? All of those policies are in flux right now. The governor's letter is just another emphasis on this needs to remain a top priority up in Austin at those state agencies, and we'll continue to keep engaged in there. From this perspective, I believe that our conservative load forecast that's in there, which I can go back just to give a reference so we know what I'm referring to when I say the load forecast. It is this demand, the demand forecast on the top line. We believe there's probably room for that to go up as time goes on. But given what we've seen on the governor's side, that there may be some pressure for that to go down a little bit. So we believe that that's conservative, and our generation plan needs to build out to meet this need will be more prudent than estimating higher and building something that may not materialize. Hopefully that answers the question and makes a little bit of sense. But if we just don't want to be overbuilding in case there's some kind of big political change that reduces the demand on the load side.
Thank you for that. And I understand there's some things that we don't know, but based on what we do know, there's flexibility in this generation plan based on different guidance that may change, to your point, kind of where that top line lands. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. As we look at the relative difference in the distribution of categories, well, let me just go to what each of the options presented does is eradicate the market purchase, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So the reason there's even market purchase currently in this plan, is that attributed to an increase in demand that was not originally forecasted when the plan was developed?
That's correct. If
Okay.
we look at, I'll use the bottom right just to orient everybody. If we look at that, the market purchases, using the current plan, this is a 4-year-old forecast. And so, yes, that is why that showed up, because the forecast is 4 years old, and that doesn't change anything else. And so
Yeah, thank you for that. I wanted the public to understand, it's not like at one point in time, we thought, hey, prices are going to be great. Let's just like hope and pray we can buy it off the market. No, the increase in demand has grown so quickly that just 4 years later, 10% of the demand, we now have to buy off market. Because of, again, how quickly it's grown. Okay. So then, excuse me?
I just wanted to remind, we did the first plan so long ago, but that first plan also contemplated shutting down some of our aging units. So I did also want to remind you of that.
Yeah, thank you. No, that was actually one of my other points, is that one of the ways in which we thought we were going to be able to bring on power, we are no longer doing that as a result of the federal prohibitions and stopping some of the things that would have freed up resources for us to make those investments. It's a really important point, certainly for the city as we're developing our state agenda and our federal agenda. So yeah, thanks for elaborating on that. Okay. In general, why is there relatively less storage in the current plan versus the updated blend plan?
get back to that slide. So relative compared to the current plan and
Correct.
the
Yeah.
updated plan. So
Just look at the colors.
right, when we look at that, that's relative to the size, and since it's hard to say with the math, but basically the storage remains about the same, but since the portfolio has grown, the percentage share within the portfolio has gone down.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that for those listening. And then solar, because solar is more capacity as well. So you would similarly think that you'd need more storage, but those two things are accounted for. Okay. And the increase in natural gas relatively, is that purely due to cost of the other things?
It's to offset the risk. If you have, so the risk really shows up when the renewables are not available to produce. That seems to be the time when the prices are also higher in the market, so you don't want to be buying during those times. So the way the plan worked out, it did develop and add natural gas to cover that risk.
Okay, thank you. I know we're getting into a little bit of the sausage, but I think as we're given the criticality of this, right, over the next 5 years, and we've seen how quickly demand is growing, I think folks want to understand why we're having to do some of these things, some of it not of our own volition, but also cost, and then some of the considerations at the federal and state level. Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Mackey, questions? Dr. Gonzalez, questions?
Yes, I guess a couple of questions or maybe more comments. First of all, thank you for the clarification. I really liked the term that you said, cost of reliability. I think that makes a lot of sense. So essentially, we're telling our customers, for this current plan, if you want reliability, this is the price tag for reliability. And I think that that's a lot easier to kind of grasp. The other comments would be to kind of echo what the mayor was saying, because I think it's important for our community to understand they don't like change, right? So they're like, why do we have to change our current plan? And to really identify that if we don't, then we have a gap of about 10%, and that the only way we could fill that would be going to the market. And so that their current prices, because, you know, for them, if we don't change, their prices are likely to stay the same. But if we don't do that, the prices are going to hike up, so.
That's correct.
Yeah, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Apologies, I had one more. The hydrogen goes to zero in the new plan. Why is that?
Right, so back when we did the original plan, the hydrogen was call it an optimistic technology, wasn't ready yet. We have since done a lot of analysis to understand the readiness and the maturity of that technology. We felt it wasn't prudent, given the cost and given the uncertainty of technology, so it was removed. Although I will say, if hydrogen does show up again, it can probably be added into the natural gas, because that's considered a technology that is burning, although it's not burning hydrocarbons, it's including hydrogen, so it could work in there.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. This is really helpful, and I like that we've gone through it many times because I feel really comfortable with it. I just wanted to stress what you said again in slide 6, that last bullet on the right-hand side is just it. I mean, it's concerning, if not ominous. And I just wanted you to expand a little bit on when you talked about the gray piece, the same thing, but the gray piece on slide 8, and how it represents volatility. And I just wanted to talk about that for a minute, because I think sometimes people might think that volatility would come in unusual times. If we had just a really bad winter storm or a really bad summer situation, and that, okay, I could live with having to go to the market for that. But I think from what you've been telling us all along, and with what Corey had given us before when we were looking into buying some of the new units, that's not what it would be necessarily, that we could get into a much more of a consistent situation of having to go to the market. So can you just address that a little bit?
That's a really good point, and thank you for pointing that out. So if we were to, I'll just use today's plan, the current plan in today's price environment. If you take that strategy, really what you're doing is you're saying, I'm not going to adjust, and I'm going to be willing to basically ride the market, and so I will be willing to take that risk. And that is the equivalent of I'm going to drive around on E in my gas tank all day, and if I need gas, I'll just stop at the next gas station. It doesn't matter what the price is, I'm going to pay it. That's the equivalent of that strategy, is basically riding around on empty, basically going into operations knowing I have a customer need that I'm not going to meet, and I'll just see what the market has to offer and be at the mercy of the market. So that's how I would explain it. That's how I've explained it to folks that have asked me, and friends and relatives when we say, what are we talking about here? And really, that's the thing, because I think we've all kind of been in that situation where you're driving around E and the next gas station is really high prices, and you just have to kind of take that high price.
Excuse me, Chair, may I also just add, because I think you just hit on something really important. That means that this is not the worst of worst days. This is kind of a thing that will happen, and we know it will, and it's kind of modeled into the system. And it's also not, I like the metaphor, but it's as though prices of the dollars per gallon, like I paid $3.75 or something the other day, it could go to, $100. It's not like
that's true.
Just from one gas station to the next. Just for the people listening at home, right? You think about the amount of, you might see a small decrease in price as you drive from one part of town to the other, but this is a much bigger deal, and it's in predictably bad times, because if we're levered to, if we have a lot of solar, for instance, we know when the sun goes down, and it's at that time when everybody needs it all together, and so it has more of an impact than might be obvious by just the number on the pie chart. Thank you.
That's important. It's not going to be an incremental increase on the market. Well, thank you for this. I will certainly be supporting it. And Steve, thank you so much for how you answered that question about affordability and talking about the connection between affordability and reliability. I think that is really important, and I appreciate it coming from you today. That was important. So if no other comments, the floor is open for a motion.
Can I just, one more, I'm sorry, point of privilege here. Corey, can you ask you a question, please? And can we go to this slide of the cost? The one slide that has the actual cost for blended strategies stay as is. Yes. So here's where I'm struggling with it. I again appreciate with the outreach, everybody's participation, both from the chairwoman to the community meetings to council. But where I struggle with it is not so much that we have to alternate the generation mix. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, it's just that we're also, as citizens, the individuals who show up are being asked to support a plan, right? A mixed bundle plan, but still with the same wages, right? So if I go to the grocery store today, fajitas might be $10 a pound if you go to Central Market. And then that day I have a choice, okay, what protein do I get? The one that's $3 a pound or the $10 a pound? So in many ways, that's kind of like the mixed blend, right? We get to choose from top proteins, and we're gonna choose it based on the cost per pound, right? The cost per unit. My thing is, where I'm struggling with this is understanding volatility, but we also have a lot of tools at our disposal to try to adjust some of these things. So it's not, I don't want to be the only one saying no to the generation proposed updated blended plan. Okay, I'm okay with that. What I'm struggling with is there alternative ways? Did we find other ways to go to that plan without having to pay a little bit more for that plan? Did we do that homework?
Yeah, I mean, the team absolutely did that homework, and David Key and the team did that homework. And I think the longer-term point is you can't financially hedge your way for the next decades. There are financial products in the near term that you could potentially manage some of that risk, but this is really a view of the long term, and I view this as the best way to mitigate that future risk that David was talking about is with owning your own generation. And honestly, that protects you against the concern about data centers driving kind of wholesale market scarcity prices up in the kind of perpetually, right? Because I think that was your point, Chair, is that, yeah, there could be an event where prices spike, but you could also have perpetually high prices because there's inherent scarcity until that comes down, and that's the risk. So I do think that everyone's done a really good job evaluating all these risks, and again, collectively, I think this is.
But my concern is that those companies, the six, Microsoft, Google, you name them, they own the market. So they're always gonna drive costs, whether it's data centers or not. I mean, they own most of the products anyways. How we live, how we work, how we are connected, they tend to do that. So sometimes that kind of concerns me when we talk about us controlling it by building it. There are things that are above and beyond our control when they drive the market.
And I think that is the answer of why we own the assets, because we can protect ourselves in that environment where they drive up the wholesale prices.
Okay.
Anybody else? Floor is open for a motion.
I'll motion for approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
I just want to confirm that this is approving the associated resolution as well.
There is an associated resolution, which is at the back. But it simply says that we are, well, it doesn't simply say this, there has more, but it says that we are supporting this, this resolution plan, generation plan strategy. Correct. It is on page 87 of 90.
So I'll motion for approval of the resolution supporting the generation plan strategy.
Second, accept that? Roll call vote, please.
If I'm, ma'am,
Yes.
Chair, just in the interest of transparency, I recommend reading the resolution. Thanks.
All right, we're going to read the resolution.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not that long.
This is a resolution supporting the generation plan strategy, whereas on January 23rd, 2023, this Board of Trustees approved a blended portfolio of generation resources, recognizing that utilizing a mix of dispatchables, renewables, demand response, and energy storage sources allows CPS Energy to increase reliability, provide affordability, reduce system risk, and lower carbon emissions. And whereas the implementation of this Vision 2027 generation plan has been successful, allowing CPS Energy to acquire more power resources ahead of schedule and at a significantly lower cost than originally forecasted. And whereas this Board of Trustees recognizes that as CPS Energy is sunsetting Vision 2027 and advancing its 5-year strategic plan into Vision 2030, anchored to the Horizon 2050 framework, it is appropriate to refresh its generation planning strategy. And whereas this Board of Trustees directed CPS Energy Management to refresh and align our blended portfolio with Horizon 2050 to safely power our community with reliable, affordable, and cleaner energy. And whereas CPS Energy also engaged the community for feedback, and the community priorities remain as reliability, affordability, and sustainability. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the CPS Energy Board of Trustees endorses the strategy to continue to execute a refreshed, blended portfolio. Be it further resolved, this board directs CPS Energy staff to take steps to implement this strategy while remaining committed to ending coal generation by 2030 by analyzing and evaluating generation opportunities and seeking approval for projects. Be it further resolved, the board directs CPS Energy staff to continue providing this board an annual update on the status of generation planning efforts. And be it further resolved, The board directs CPS Energy staff to continue to thoroughly review its generation plan periodically to ensure we are meeting a shifting energy landscape and exploring new technologies. Passed and adopted on this 22nd day of June, 2026.
All right, thank you. I think we're ready for a roll call vote now.
All right. Vice Chair Dr. Mackey? Trustee Dr. Gonzalez, sorry. Mayor?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
I support definitely the update on the
You can just
plan.
have a vote at this point.
No.
Chair?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Okay, we are moving to our always popular summer preparedness update. Are we going to watch the video first? And then we will have our CEO introduce our plant managers? And is Brian here? That's okay, we'll see him in the video. I'm sorry. Are we getting the video ready?
Hello everybody, I'm CPS Energy's Chief Meteorologist Brian Alonzo. As we take a look at what's going to be happening for this upcoming summer, I am expecting above average temperatures. No really big surprise on that, but looks like as we get into July and August, yeah, that's where we'll start to see our temperatures really start increasing across South Texas. As far as precipitation goes, looking at near average, maybe just slightly below average. It looks like as we go into July and August, those are going to be a little bit more on the dry months, but as far as June goes, looks like we still have some rain chances still in the forecast. Speaking of forecasts, we're talking about the tropics now. Now, it looks like according to NOAA, they're calling for a below average season. So we're talking about 8 to 14 named storms, 3 to 6 hurricanes, 1 to 3 major hurricanes. That'll be category 3 or higher. An average here is 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. So because of El Nino, it looks like this is going to be a less active season compared to last year, but nonetheless, this is something we still need to keep a close eye on as we head through hurricane season. At CPS Energy, preparation for summer starts long before temperatures rise. Across our organization, teams are already hard at work to help ensure reliable service for our community. That work begins at the source, how we generate and supply power when demand is at its highest. Our power generation teams are preparing power plants for peak summer demand, making sure equipment is inspected, tested, and ready to perform when it matters most. We continue to maintain strong available capacity to meet the needs of our growing community while securing reliable fuel sources to support operations during extreme conditions. In the field, our crews are inspecting equipment, strengthening infrastructure, and upgrading technology. One example is the installation of reclosures that help automatically detect issues and restore power faster, minimizing service interruption. And behind all this work is the constant focus on our #1 priority, which is safety. Safety is at the core of everything we do. Our teams train year-round to work in extreme heat, navigate challenging conditions, and respond quickly when our community needs us most. While we prepare for today, we're also building for the future. We're continuing to invest in a stronger, more resilient energy system, bringing new technology and resources online to better serve our customers today and into the future. So what does all of this mean for our customers? It comes down to one thing: serving you. By preparing ahead of time, we're working to reduce outages, respond faster, and help keep your home or business powered through the summer. And while we're doing our part, there are a few simple steps customers can take to prepare as well. First, sign up for energy alerts through Manage My Account at cpsenergy.com/alerts. And make sure your contact information is up to date so you can receive timely updates during outages or severe weather. Another way customers can stay informed this summer is through our conservation efforts. You'll see Cam the Chameleon help guide conservation with simple, color-coded tips to help you save energy and money. And if temperatures become extreme, consider visiting a designated cooling location identified by the City of San Antonio, Bexar County, or your local jurisdiction. For real-time updates and resources, follow CPS Energy on social media. Summer in South Texas can be demanding, but with preparation, teamwork, and a shared commitment to our community, we're ready. At CPS Energy, reliability means more than keeping the lights on. It means showing up, staying prepared, and serving our community every day.
Well, thank you, Chair and trustees. I think what I'd like to do is bring up our plant directors, our plant managers, and I'm going to introduce Gary Hans and William Powell, who then will introduce their teams. As they make their way up, it's always critical that we consider reliability of our power plants. These are the individuals that lead those organizations, but they're here representing hundreds and hundreds of employees who work really, really hard every day all across the year to be sure that we're reliable in advance of the peak summer season and the peak winter seasons. And they take care of that those plants like they own them. They lead the individuals that work at those power plants ably, and they're here today representing that group of people that keep our power flowing for the community. So Gary, maybe we'll start with you.
There we go, green light. So Gary Hans, newly Senior Director over Rio Nogales. Also over Ryan McDonald as part of AVR. I'll be also over the team leader for the Houston assets, the Eric Coulterman, and I'll be over the DER solar and battery sites here in San Antonio. William?
Thank you. Hey, William Powell, the Senior Director for CPS North. I have oversight for Summers, which right now I'm still the director over. Also Spruce, which we have Paulo, and we also have CCL, which I don't think Rich is here right now, but we have Rich from CCL. But we have Glenn Amazon here.
Yeah, so thank you, gentlemen, and obviously appreciate what you do every day. And for the team members who might be out there listening, so much appreciated for the work that you're doing to make sure that our plants are running strong for the summer.
Dr. Mackey, did you want to ask a question?
No, just kind of go back when we first started this after the winter storm. I remember asking them to have the plant managers come up and talk about the preparation that they're doing to keep the plant running during the next storm, and then think about the summer program. So Rudy came aboard and said, "Hey, Doc, if we're doing the summer, why not do the? We're doing the winter. Why not do the summer?" I said, "That's a great idea." But we had them to come up and do a short presentation back then. But confidence, having confidence in these guys and going out to the plants and letting them explain the things that they're doing to keep the plants running. They're doing an extremely great job in keeping these plants running. And just this weekend, going out to Corpus and talking to them and listening to their people talk about what they're doing to keep us going for the summer. I'm more than pleased with these guys, the job that they're doing. Thank you for everything that you're doing, because you're front line and what you're doing matters more than what we're doing sitting up here. Thank you.
Any other questions for the plant managers? Or for Brian Alonzo, who is here? Yes, he did. I did have a question for Deanna Hardwick, if you don't mind. I just wanted you to confirm disconnection policies in the summer and how that is impacted by temperatures.
Yes, ma'am. So from a disconnect perspective, we are consistent with the PUCT regulations, and so we do not disconnect on days that there are heat advisories. So our team does monitor. We work very closely with Brian Alonzo. So on days that the National Weather Service does issue a heat advisory, we do not disconnect in our territory, or it's anywhere in Bexar County or in the counties that we provide any service for. So we do monitor for those days.
Okay, thank you. And we've already had several of those.
Yes, we have.
It's not even summer.
Correct.
All right, well, and I wanted to thank everybody with the storm on Friday night, which was, I don't know, I'm pretty old, but that's one of the worst storms I've ever seen. And I just know we have more of these in our future, unfortunately, and I appreciate that my power went out for about 3 seconds. And I know there were a lot of people out, and I believe they were connected fairly quickly.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that comment. And there were 10,000 cloud-to-ground lightning strikes. And when it's that sort of onesie, twosie kind of outages, it makes it very difficult to get everyone back on as fast as we would like to get them on. And so we work diligently. There's been a lot of storms this year so far. And, we'll just continue to plow through that and cross our fingers for better weather, but also just be prepared and work really hard safely for our community to restore power when it's out.
Chair, thank you for raising the question about the disconnections. I think it'd be helpful, Deanne, if you would share that with each of the council members, so they may be getting questions on that. And that is based on the temperature outside. Do you make assumptions about what that may mean for temperatures on the inside and in some places where some houses are in fact hotter than it is outside, and what that means for those folks?
Unfortunately, we don't have a way to determine those conditions, but what we can do is we look at, with Brian, we try and take into consideration in the event there is going to be a heat advisory, because it has to do with the heat index and the temperatures. So we try and make it, we try and be as compassionate as we can. And so that's why we do as many communications up front before we get to the disconnect piece to prevent it from happening at all. That's where the contact us, call us, show up at one of our walk-in centers or come to one of our community events. But we'll be happy to send the notifications and the updates to council members, as well as all of the ways you can avoid disconnect up front so that it doesn't have to get to that point.
And I would actually appreciate if you would take back for consideration an approach that, I mean, some parts of the community are just hotter. They're in a heat island, right? And so 100 degrees might not feel like 100 degrees in certain parts of our city, which we know. So understanding how we can be more nuanced in what the actual temperature needs to be in the community, understanding in some places they're going to be well past that already just by nature of them being in a heat island. Thank you.
Understood. Yes, ma'am.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that because the city is so big and the ecosystems vary. I don't know if this is something Brian could consider, sort of a microclimate heat advisories. Even if it was just in quartiles or smaller would be better, but if we could get to something like that.
Yeah, this is something we can look at. A recent study from Texas A&M has kind of addressed this situation, looking at Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio about urban heat island, where the data is suggesting that as storms kind of come in because of the heat island, sometimes these storms kind of weaken a little bit. I'm not necessarily agreeing with that notion, just because the heat is just more fuel for these showers and thunderstorms. A good classic example is what happened this past weekend. As Frank was just mentioning, we had a lot of lightning strikes. There were even some kind of strong winds that weren't really on the models with some of these storms that we had. But what people don't kind of factor is the Gulf. That's our main moisture source, and that's been quite warm. We didn't have much of a winter, so when you think about all that warm, moist air, it's just fuel for these showers and thunderstorms. And this is why we have seen over these past couple of months, every time that it rains, and it rains really hard, we get into these flash flooding situations. across San Antonio and across South Texas. So yeah, it's just been quite interesting what we've seen over the past couple of months. But we could take a look at what's happening with these microclimates. Absolutely.
Yeah, and do we have to go with the National Weather Service heat advisory? Like, if you were to be able to say on a given day, it's not at heat advisory levels in the northwest side of the city, but it is on the south side of the city, because it's so big, you could get that difference. And with the humidity as well, like you're saying, the more farther south you are, you're going to get the higher humidity. So is that something we could look into and use as a gauge for disconnections, or do we have to go with National Weather Service?
So the PUC does use the National Weather Service as their guide in terms of extreme weather, both for heat and for cold temperatures. So that would be something that if we were to do would be outside of, would be something dissimilar. So I would look to how far we want to go and not be aligned with PUC. And then also if we're going to treat one side of town different from another side of town, that's going to be inconsistent, not equal treatment. So I would look to our legal team to help provide guidance on that, if that's something we could do once we get the science and the methodology clear with Brian.
I hear the ask, though. The actual impact on people, how can we consider it and take it into account? So understand and have no idea how we'll do it right now, but I hear the ask and we'll do it.
Yeah. I think there's, I don't know the researcher's name, but I know they've done extensive work at this, UT San Antonio, right? That's done the, I don't know if you know the gentleman, actually, Chair.
Esteban Morales.
Perfect. There you go. That's it. That, again, that research that may already exist, that there's enough here as to where it's in our city's interest to consider these things individually. Thank you.
Sounds like our next meeting. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. That ends item 11. We will now go into executive session. Ms. Ramirez, please bring us into executive session.
Yes, ma'am. At this time, the board is going to recess into executive session to discuss matters that have been duly posted under several provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, including 2 separate matters on consultation concerning attorney-client matters under Section 551.071. At the conclusion of executive session, the board will reconvene in open session and continue the meeting. It's 4:06 p.m. as we go into executive session.
Thank you. And we have no more items after executive session. If people were thinking of waiting for us, you don't have to, but if you do, we'll see you. Thank you. Ms. Ramirez, can you bring us back from executive session, please?
Yes, ma'am. It is 4:42 PM and the board has concluded executive session. I can confirm that there were no votes taken and no matters were discussed that were not part of the posted agenda. We have a quorum and all members are present.
All right, can you review any action items from today?
Yes, ma'am. Excluding those I took in executive session, I have 3 action items. The first is from yourself and Trustee Gonzalez, and it was to provide additional information to the Operations Committee on our local spend metric. And I will get the information that's been requested together. I know Lisa was working on it today. The second was from the mayor, and it was to share disconnection blackout days and summer conditions with all of the council offices. The third was I'll just consider it from the whole group, but it was to consider the temperature impact in special circumstances like heat islands and what it's like inside, even with an outside temperature in various places across the city. And then one from executive session.
Okay, any others? Is the mayor coming back? Do we know? No, oh, okay. All right, motion to adjourn, please.
Sure.
I'll second. All in favor? All right.